On a night covered with lightning, the day of awakening had arrived, and in the S-rank Death Lair, the oldest of existences, the first S-rank dungeon appeared on the Blue Star, and for decades, the Death Lair remained unconquered. Countless powerful warriors met their deaths there, but this time, Su Ming challenged the Death Lair alone and slew the strongest god-level aberrant beast. However, the people who were also there wanted Su Ming to stop clinging to life and hand over the divine artifact. One of the guys calls Su Ming the god of massacre and warns that his luck has run out. Another guy emphasizes that because Su Ming is a hero of humanity, they will give him a quick death, and that he should just say where he hid the divine artifact. Su Ming grips his sword and, while releasing power, comments that he never imagined everyone there would ambush him at the exact moment he cleared the dungeon just to steal the divine artifact. So he wants to know if that had been their plan from the beginning. Zhang Tang steps forward while equipping his powerful weapon. Then, he raises it high and asks Su Ming to hand over the divine artifact, stressing that, for the sake of their past brotherhood, he will not eliminate him. Having said that, he laughs and emphasizes that he will only destroy his powers. Su Ming also laughs and comments that he thinks he must have gone blind, because since he was 18 years old, he had always treated Zhang Tang as a brother, fighting side by side all these years that have passed. Then he says that he did not see how poisonous he truly is. Having said that, he raises his sword and begins to release great power. Su Ming also comments that if they want to test the power of the Ring of Defiance, then they should all try to take it, but he stresses that he doubts any of them have what it takes to do so. One of Zhang Tang's lackeys is surprised and comments that the power he is feeling is undeniably that of a divine artifact. Another says there is no time to lose, and that everyone should eliminate Su Ming once and for all and search for the divine artifact he hid. But Zhang Tang says that Su Ming currently has the power of the divine artifact, and because of that, he thinks they cannot simply act impulsively. Yet even so, he knows the plan is one step away from completion. At that moment, someone appears above calling out to Su Ming, who in turn is confused by what he is seeing. There is already a woman heading toward him. As soon as she reaches the ground, she hugs Su Ming, and he wants to know what she is doing there. She says that she heard someone was conspiring against him, and because of that, she was very worried. Su Ming smiles and comments that he is fine since he has already obtained the divine artifact. Then he looks ahead and stresses that everyone there are partners, but emphasizes that he only did not understand one thing since Zhang Tang's group discovered his exact location. At that moment, the woman lands a critical blow on Su Ming, who in turn cannot believe that she did that and asks why. Zhang Tang becomes excited, shouting that the plan was a success, and informs that the final catalyst is already in place, and that, therefore, they should activate the imprisonment formation. And as soon as they activate it, a magic circle appears around Su Ming, who is completely perplexed, since he knows that the cursed seal he is seeing belongs to Ren Xiaoman, but wonders if she betrayed him a long time ago. Zhang Tang says that what Su Ming is witnessing is the imprisonment formation they prepared just for him, and that he can no longer channel powers. Ren Xiaoman apologizes to Su Ming and informs that, to be honest, she only stayed with him because of Zhang Tang. Then, while her ability continues to take effect, she says that when she saw that he awakened a 9-star talent, she knew she could simply use him to obtain the divine artifact. Su Ming becomes furious and starts shouting and trying to break the imprisonment formation. However, Zhang Tang tells his lackeys to attack the MC immediately until a skeletal arm emerges from the ground and another woman appears, conjuring her summons and blocking everyone's advance. Su Ming is surprised to see who it is and asks what she is doing there. Ji Yao turns around and asks Su Ming not to give up, saying that he cannot let despicable cowards obtain the divine artifact. Zhang Tang shouts that another one has appeared seeking to be eliminated, then informs that there are dozens of masters there, and that not even an emperor descending from the heavens could save them. Having said that, everyone charges forward again. Zhang Tang advances with full force, saying that those who dare block his path will be eliminated. Su Ming shouts, asking Ji Yao to take care of her flank. However, as soon as she realizes something, she is attacked by Zhang Tang, who tells her not to take it personally. The MC cannot believe that his friend was attacked. Zhang Tang goes to Su Ming and emphasizes that this is not the time for him to waste time worrying about others. Then, he points his celestial weapon at his face and makes it clear that he will also be eliminated. While Su Ming tries at all costs to break free from the imprisonment formation, Jiang Tang once again asks him to hand over the divine artifact and explains that he might consider sparing him. Su Ming becomes extremely furious, and, after managing to break some parts of the chains of the imprisonment formation, calls everyone bastards and activates his divine explosion technique. Jiang Tang jumps back to avoid being hit by the explosion, and one of the lackeys comments that the power they just witnessed is a divine level technique. Su Ming, while his entire body is badly injured, goes to Ji Yao and asks why she appeared, saying that he failed her so many times. Ji Yao places her hand on the MC's face and with great difficulty speaking, says that if they have to die, then she thinks they will die together. However, out of nowhere, a sword falls from the heavens, stabbing fiercely into the ground, and while everyone watches it, Su Ming picks up his friend in his arms and says that on that day, he, the god of massacre, swears completely that if he is reborn, he will hunt all of them to the ends of the world. Ren Xiaoman asks what the MC is trying to do. Jiang Tang is surprised and explains that it seems Su Ming is trying to drag the divine artifact back to the death lair with him. And while Su Ming stands at the edge of a cliff, Jiang Tang shouts for his lackeys to stop him and take the divine artifact. However, the MC jumps off the cliff, and while he is falling with his friend, he tells Jiang Tang that if he really wants the ring, then he should go try to get it. At that moment, the divine artifact begins to shine intensely, and after some time, the MC sees a glow and wonders if he is dead, until, upon waking up, he wonders where he is. Amid many people, a guy is laughing and announcing that at the 127th awakening ceremony of the first Xuanzong Academy, the student Wang Qiang successfully changed professions, being a life-type enchanter profession with an innate 3-star attribute. The people around comment that most of the awakened at the ceremony are not combat professions. Su Ming is intrigued to learn that he is at the awakening ceremony. Then he thinks that he is feeling a familiar sensation. Next, as he looks around more carefully, he wonders if he has gone back in time to when he was 18 years old on the day of the awakening ceremony. For he clearly remembers that the student who just awakened, the chubby Wang Qiang, in his past life was also an enchanter. And he remembers well that the next to awaken should be Li Songyang, who successfully awakened the combat profession of warrior with an innate 2-star attribute, while Qian Yu failed to awaken, and Song Li successfully awakened the profession of combat mage. Thus, the person responsible for presenting the ceremony announces that the next one, the student Li Songyang, had a successful awakening, and that the profession is warrior with an innate 2-star attribute. Then he announces that Qian Yu unfortunately failed to awaken, and finally, Song Li, who had a successful awakening, being of the combat mage profession. The guy who had regained consciousness thinks that it truly happened just as he remembered. Then, he becomes happy to know that he is truly back. And as he recalls what happened in his past, he reflects that this second chance was the will of the heavens to rewrite all of his regrets, until the students become astonished by what they are seeing. Jiang Tang is awakening a hidden combat profession, and after successfully completing the awakening, he becomes the Magic Hammer Warrior, possessing an innate attribute level of 8 stars. One person comments that the first hidden combat profession has appeared. Another emphasizes that this was already expected of Jiang Tang, the young master of the Jiang family, since his father is a war emperor and his mother a magic warrior. The MC keeps thinking about Jiang Tang. Then, while the presenter congratulates him and says that Xuanjing Academy has produced an 8-star genius right at the beginning of the year, someone taps the MC on the back and comments that he was there all this time. He turns around in surprise. Su Ming sees that it is Ji Yao, and she comments that she has been looking for him for a while. Then she asks why Su Ming looks surprised. He replies that it is nothing, and that he just wanted to congratulate her in advance. Ji Yao does not quite understand and asks why he is congratulating her. Su Ming remembers what happened in his past life. Then he replies that she will understand when she goes up on stage. At that moment, the presenter calls for Ji Yao, and she is quite surprised to learn that it is already her turn. After she arrives at the spot to see whether she will awaken successfully, the presenter asks her to place her hand on the celestial star. As soon as she brings her hand closer, she becomes intrigued by something. The presenter becomes excited, commenting that another hidden profession has appeared. Having said that, he announces that Ji Yao has awakened a hidden combat profession, that of a necromancer, with an innate level of 7 stars. The students go crazy upon learning this, and comment that the academy is extremely impressive that year. The MC smiles and thinks that it is exactly as he remembered, and that next it will be his turn. Thus, the presenter calls for Su Ming. The people comment that after witnessing 2 awakenings of hidden professions, they believe a third one is impossible. In addition to knowing that Su Ming, from Class 1, is an orphan, the MC keeps in mind that in a world dominated by the awakened on Blue Star, the Dragon Country, decades ago, after the Day of Awakening, everyone who turns 18 can change professions by participating in the awakening ceremony, becoming one of the awakened who change the face of the world and possess the power to bend the rules, along with wealth and equipment capable of changing destiny. However, at the same time, they must face gigantic beasts and terrible calamities, as well as countless challenges. Su Ming, as he stands before the celestial star to see whether he will awaken or not, reflects that in his past life, as an orphan, he survived with help and scholarships, and that on the day of the awakening ceremony, he was fortunate enough to be blessed by the heavens, since a celestial phenomenon also appeared at the time. For he knew that in the end, he awakened with an innate attribute of 9 stars, the legendary profession, that of the god of slaughter. Thus, he places his hand on the celestial star and thinks that he will make everyone see him with different eyes. At that moment, the presenter begins to look extremely surprised upon seeing the type of energy, then wonders whether it will be the birth of a genius with an innate attribute of 9 stars or more. The people around are also dumbfounded and soon want to know whether it is truly possible for someone to awaken another hidden profession. Su Ming thinks that he needs to feel the runes again, but ends up becoming quite surprised and intrigued, since he is seeing the divine artifact, the divine ring of rebellion. Then, he really wants to know whether the artifact accompanied him on the journey back in time, until he becomes even more intrigued by a system screen in front of him, informing that the strongest Godslayer system has successfully bound itself, and that the system has bound a new profession to the MC. With that, the awakening is complete, and the mythical profession of the God of the Sword has been obtained. Su Ming reflects on the mythical profession of the God of the Sword that he has just obtained, and then begins to see an enormous sword-shaped form emerging from the celestial star. The presenter, extremely surprised, comments that for such a phenomenon to appear, he wonders what the hell the MC is changing professions into. One of the students comments that he thinks that if it is a combat profession, it would be quite incredible, and that if it is a life profession, it would be a complete tragedy, until another student asks if his friend is stupid because a phenomenon like the one they are witnessing could never be a life profession. Zheng Tang becomes intrigued by something and, observing Su Ming carefully, wonders why he is not moving, while Su Ming is thinking that the profession awakened this time is that of the God of the Sword and not that of the God of Slaughter, as in his past life. And, while he clicks on the golden system, he knows that it is something different from his previous life. After the MC places his fingerprint on the system, it informs that he has been identified and that the target Su Ming has been confirmed. Then it informs that the awakened profession is that of the God of the Sword and that the golden talent is the sublimation of all things. Su Ming is surprised by this golden talent, since he has in mind that this is even greater than the 9-star profession level he awakened in his past life. Thus, he smiles and thinks that if this is really the case, he believes he should surpass his past life God of Slaughter. Then he starts interacting with the system, and it informs that it will open the skill interface for Su Ming, but soon reports that no skills have been awakened. The MC cannot believe this, and begins to search like a madman through his system to see if he has at least one skill. The people around start wanting to know what Su Ming is doing there, since he seems nervous. Desperate, the MC realizes that he does not have any skills, and wonders what the difference is compared to before awakening and whether the system is mocking him. Then the system informs that the MC will be receiving feedback and that it will continue to guide him. However, an error occurs, as identification of the ring is required. Su Ming becomes intrigued when he sees a ring appear in his hand, which soon begins to glow, and the system notifies that the Divine Ring of Rebellion has been successfully identified. A huge radiance begins to emerge and grows increasingly stronger. People comment that the fluctuation is extremely intense. The person responsible for presenting the awakened, extremely surprised, asks whether the awakening is complete until he becomes completely shocked upon seeing that the MC's innate talent is an astonishing 10 stars. Thus, he informs everyone that Su Ming's profession change is to a hidden profession, that of sword controller. The students are stunned to see that the innate attribute is 10 stars, since they know that this is the talent level of the top-ranked individual. Another student comments that he thought Zhang Tang's 8-star magic hammer warrior was already terrifying, but now there is a 10-star level. The old man comments that the year they are in is truly a year of developing talents for the academy, since not only have several students with hidden professions appeared, but there is also a chosen of the heavens with a 10-star innate attribute. He also emphasizes that although the potential of the sword controller profession is not so outstanding within the swordsman category, Su Ming possesses a 10-star innate attribute talent, and he believes that he will definitely have limitless potential in the future. Then the director says that he has decided to reward the student Su Ming with a set of cultivation assistance items. And as he walks among the students, Su Ming hears various things. One of them is that someone thinks the sword controller is a waste of innate talent, since the sword controller is considered the very bottom among the swordsman category. In addition, the swordsman category is inherently a close-range profession, while the sword controller can operate both at close and long range, needing to cultivate both physical and magical attacks. And that although it can use long-range attacks, this causes the original close-range cultivation resources of the swordsman to be divided, making combat power very mediocre, being a completely weak profession. Su Ming only thinks that, in their eyes, the sword controller is just trash, until Ji Yao runs over to her friend and offers her congratulations. The MC comments that he is also very happy for her and congratulates her. Ji Yao says that all the students are talking nonsense, since she thinks that being able to awaken a 10-star talent makes Su Ming truly amazing, and that although the sword controller profession is a bit weaker in the early stages, she believes that with her friend's talent it will definitely not be a problem. He thanks her and says that he did not take the other's words seriously. Then he says that their reaction is exactly what he wanted. At that moment, the director calls for Ren Xiaoman. Zhang Tang comments that he is sure she will succeed, just like many other students. Ji Yao comments that Xiaoman is very popular, since that was already expected of the school beauty. However, upon seeing the MC leave without saying anything, she says that the ceremony is not over yet. He replies that he is not the least bit interested in the result, since he has in mind that in his past life this woman used his talent and in the end did not hesitate to betray him. And while she goes to learn her awakening result, Su Ming thinks about the words he said before, in which he stated that he would take revenge for being betrayed. Upon arriving at the city center, he thinks that in this life everything about daily life seems unchanged except for his awakened profession. Then he sees in his system the total concealment skill, capable of hiding or rewriting one's own information, such as equipment, profession, and skills. Su Ming thinks about this skill, since he has in mind that this is one of the 4 skills he brought from his past life. Then, he remembers the ring and keeps observing it in his hand. Then the system informs that it will be loading the divine artifact Ring of Rebellion, and, after loading, informs that the MC has inherited part of the abilities of the God of Slaughter profession. Su Ming becomes confused about his new God of the Sword profession having abilities of a God of Slaughter. Then, he checks his status, currently having 10 points in strength, 10 in constitution, 10 in agility, 10 in spirit, and 10 in luck, being at level 1. His profession is God of the Sword, of legendary grade and unique in the world. His talent is the sublimation of all things, and his skills are God of Slaughter Strike, Total Concealment, Divine Shadow Step, and Eye of Perception. The MC reflects that a common man is innocent, but possessing a jade ring becomes a crime, and that to avoid being used by others again like in his past life, it is because his current strength is still insufficient. Thus, since the 10-star talent cannot be hidden, he concludes that he must hide the information about his God of the Sword profession, and that he will firmly seize this chance to be reborn. Then he thinks that according to his past life's experience, On the day after the awakening ceremony ends, the Novice Dungeon Challenge will arrive. However, he knows that the Novice Dungeon is not a challenge, and that therefore, to level up faster and obtain better equipment, he must challenge the most difficult boss he has in mind. But before that, he needs to get his hands on a good weapon first. Meanwhile, in a luxury hotel, Jiang Tang and Ren Xiaoman are kissing. Then she comments that he is very bad, since the awakening ceremony had barely ended, and he was already taking her to a place like that. Jiang Tang asks her not to mention the awakening ceremony, because Su Ming completely stole his spotlight. Ren Xiaoman asks him not to be angry, but comments that although that Su Ming is just a sword controller, the attributes he awakened are very high, and that he will definitely have great value of use in the future. Jiang Tang becomes confused and asks what she is trying to say. Ren Xiaoman takes out her phone and asks him to take a look. Jiang Tang becomes quite surprised by what he sees. She then comments that if they lure the MC a little, she thinks he will definitely bite the bait and be useful to them in the future. After a few hours in the city center, the MC arrives at a place where a woman welcomes him and informs that this is the weapon shopping area on the 12th floor and wishes the customers a pleasant shopping experience. As soon as he enters, Su Ming looks around and thinks that it seems the awakening ceremony of that year at the nearby schools has already ended, since the awakened students are all there preparing for the novice dungeon test the next day. Su Ming hears a student desperately wanting a weapon, but his friend tells him to forget it, since as newly awakened students, they would have no way to buy such an expensive weapon, and that they should just use their awakened abilities to work like dogs and earn money in the future. The MC then sees several people in front of a sword, saying that it is the Tyrant's Frost Sword, which was recently forged by a high-tier player. But even so, they still cannot believe that its market price is 1 million coins. Su Ming walks along and thinks that he knows this weapon is fake, because he remembers it from his past life, and that the gang of merchants who sold these counterfeits were all arrested, until he hears someone asking him to wait. A woman, accompanied by several bodyguards, wants to know if the MC is Su Ming. He becomes intrigued and immediately wants to know who she is. She takes out a card and says that she has not introduced herself yet, then says that her name is Jiang Lan and that she is the vice director of the Jiang'an conglomerate. Su Ming takes her business card and, after observing it for a bit, comments that he thinks he knows her from somewhere. Jiang Lan calls to the MC once again and says that on behalf of the Jiang'an conglomerate, she will cover all of his expenses there that day, but that she hopes he can do a favor. Su Ming, suspicious, wants to know what kind of favor it would be. She asks one of her bodyguards to take out a photograph, and he shows the phone to the MC to take a look. Jiang Lan says that the girl Su Ming is seeing is her younger sister, Jiang Yuncheng, and that she studies at the same school as him. Then she says that her sister also awakened successfully earlier, and that she has thoroughly investigated the news about the MC awakening a 10-star talent, because she thinks that with his talent, the novice dungeon the next day should not be very difficult for him. Thus, Jiang Lan emphasizes that she is sure Su Ming is also aware that only those who have recently changed professions can enter the novice dungeon, so she hopes that he can join her younger sister and protect her while she completes the challenge in the novice dungeon. He thinks about it, but soon replies that he refuses, that he is not interested, and walks away. Jiang Lan cannot believe it, and emphasizes that as long as he agrees, he can choose any weapon in that shop, because she thinks that as a poor student who has just awakened, he should not refuse such an offer. Thus, Su Ming points to a sword and says that he wants that one, then says that it is the Tyrant's Frost Sword, worth 1 million. Jiang Lan is completely stunned and comments that he is trying to make things difficult, then asks whether the MC really thinks it is worth 1 million with its current stats. Su Ming asks whether she was not the one who said he could choose whatever he wanted, because he thinks that if she is not willing, it is better to forget the deal. Then he comments that there are many things for which one cannot take shortcuts with mere financial power, so he asks Jiang Lan to have her sister do her utmost to prepare for the novice dungeon test the next day. While Jiang Lan stops the bodyguards from doing anything to the MC, she comments that this is quite interesting and that they will consider their offense against the MC this time. And after they leave and the crowd realizes that Su Ming messed with the Jiang'an conglomerate people, he becomes intrigued by something. since he is seeing a message from someone. Upon opening it, he sees that it is from Ren Xiaoman. In the message, she asks whether he did not always say that he liked her, so he has ended up changing his mind, and she wants to see him that night on the rooftop of the school building. Su Ming keeps in mind that this is the same message from his past life, and that although he did not awaken the god of slaughter profession this time, Ren Xiaoman really has not changed at all. He already knows that at the same time in his past life, he had agreed and would see her there. After that, Su Ming goes to a place and asks permission from a saleswoman. She immediately asks how she can help him. He asks whether what he is seeing are raw sword stones that can randomly produce high-quality sword weapons. The saleswoman replies that yes, and says that the raw weapon stones there have a chance to produce silver-grade weapons. Then she emphasizes that the MC should understand that everything is based on probability, since most raw stones only produce lower-grade weapons, and that, therefore, she hopes he will consider carefully before buying. Su Ming comments that this is exactly what he wants. The saleswoman becomes a little confused upon hearing that. The MC approaches the raw stones and explains that compared to buying a silver-grade weapon at a high price that will soon become obsolete, betting on a stone there for a cheap price is the most suitable option. Su Ming reflects that instead of calling it a gamble, he thinks he should say that he can see the data inside the raw stones, since all of this is thanks to the second ability left to him by his god of slaughter from his past life, which is called Eye of Perception, because his eyes possess the true power of perception, capable of perceiving the fundamental information of all matter. Thus, after analyzing each of the stones, he picks one up in his hand and concludes that it will be that one, since compared to ordinary silver-grade weapons that sell for hundreds or thousands of advent coins, obtaining one at that moment for only 50 coins is an absolute bargain, especially since he knows this is perfectly suitable now that he has returned to being a poor student. At that moment, a guy appears at the door wanting to know if the MC is not the kid who just rejected the Jianggan conglomerate. Then, more people enter the room, and a guy wants to know if what the MC has in his hands is not one of those useless raw weapon stones used for gambling on weapons. The blonde guy comments that he thought the MC was some kind of big shot with a lot of confidence, but seeing him reject a favor from a conglomerate just to mess around with useless stones, he thinks that in the end, he is just another idiot. Su Ming takes a deep breath and thinks that he knows the blonde guy and that his name is Yang Ding, the spoiled brat who specialized in bullying freshmen in his past life. After reflecting on this, the MC calls out to them and asks whether they dare to bet 5,000 advent coins that he can obtain a silver-grade weapon. They look at each other for a brief moment and soon start laughing, saying that the MC really is a complete idiot. Yang Ding says that these types of raw weapon stones have a 99.99% chance of producing trash, and that he has never seen someone who likes giving away money so much. Su Ming comments that they will see who is giving money to whom. People passing by hear them making the bet, and it does not take long for many people to gather there to watch the MC open the raw stones. Yang Ding makes it clear that he will see whether a poor bastard like the MC can really come up with 5,000 coins. Su Ming activates his Eye of Perception and visualizes the sword inside the stone, then shouts for it to come out. Yang Ding and his friend are dumbfounded by what they are seeing, and as soon as the MC grabs the sword, the other people also become very surprised. The system informs that the acquired weapon is the Black Iron Crimson Edge sword of silver level and low grade, but its special affix is Blood Drinker, since after the sword injures a monster, it can absorb the drained blood to heal the wielder's wounds. Su Ming holds it firmly and comments that the sword is very good. Then he thinks that it is perfect for the meeting that night. Yang Ding, still very surprised, comments that the MC was really lucky, and the MC in turn comments again that the sword is not bad, since it even has a lifesteal effect that will save him the trouble of needing a healer. Having said that, he points the tip of the sword at the blonde guy and emphasizes that a bet is a bet, and that therefore he will take Yang Ding's 5,000 advent coins. After Yang Ding transfers the amount he lost in the bet, he comments to the MC that he will remember him very well. Su Ming comments that next time, he should not make bets with people so easily. The saleswoman watches the stats and comments that it has been years since someone there managed to obtain a weapon from a raw stone. The MC calls her and says that he also needs a matching scabbard, and that If he is not mistaken, it should cost 5,000 coins. She replies yes, and asks the MC to follow her. Thus, Su Ming buys a silver-grade scabbard, whose effect is to reduce weapon durability consumption by 50%. After placing the sword inside the scabbard, the MC thinks that now, with the scabbard, he can greatly reduce the weapon's durability consumption, since he does not have sufficient funds to replace his sword at the moment. At that moment, the system asks whether the MC wants to open the hidden weapon materialization function. He replies that not yet, and thinks that he will take the sword and raise it by one more grade. After a few hours, while walking through the park, Su Ming thinks that in this life, although he awakened as a god of the sword, he does not have a single usable class skill, but that in the class talent tree there is a very powerful original talent, sublimation of all things, since it can improve the quality of any loot, such as combat skills, equipment, scrolls, and others, and that any item can only be sublimated or indirectly sublimated once. Thus he knows that just by having this talent alone, it is truly worthy of the golden grade class that the god of the sword represents. And, after using sublimation of all things, the system informs that the weapon's sublimation was successful and it gained the bloodlust effect. Now the weapon's name is Zhuan Steel, bloodthirsty sword, of high-quality silver grade. The blood drinker effect causes that after the sword strikes a target, it can absorb the target's blood through attacks or contact to heal the wielder's wounds. The bloodlust effect causes that after killing a monster with the sword, all of the wielder's stats are temporarily increased by 5 points for 30 seconds. Su Ming thinks that after eliminating an enemy, he will be able to gain a temporary buff that increases all of his stats. So he decides to open the hidden weapon materialization function and concludes that now, the novice dungeon the next day will be much easier. After that, a few hours pass and night arrives. Su Ming goes to the place he had arranged to meet Ren Xiaoman and equips his sword. She soon notices his presence and, upon turning around, comments that he finally arrived, but points out that he is a bit late. However, she ends up becoming confused by what she is seeing, since Su Ming is attacking her. Ren Xiaoman screams loudly, and seeing that Su Ming merely struck the sword into the ground, really wants to know what he is doing. The MC takes a deep breath and then says that he is there for revenge, saying this while thinking about what happened in his past life. Ren Xiaoman asks what he is talking about and comments that she accepted his confession. Then she shows some messages they exchanged and comments that it was because of that she took the initiative to ask him out, and that it was he who wanted to date her. Su Ming remains silent for a moment and then says that this was in his past life. Then he thinks that she, who was recognized as the school beauty, had always been a prominent figure there, and that, as an orphan who never received attention from others while growing up, he never thought he would have the chance to interact with her, and that he also certainly never thought that on the second day after the awakening ceremony, she would take the initiative to show concern. And from that day on, he received her concern, which was the attention he had longed for his entire life. Su Ming also begins to recall the confession, the dating, the intimacy, and the interactions, and concludes that those days were the times he cherished the most. Thus, he shouts that it was all fake. Then he says that he knows everything about her dirty dealings with Jiang Tang, and that she was only trying to use his talent and abilities. Ren Xiaoman is surprised, but asks the MC not to dare speak nonsense. Su Ming comments that she knows very well whether he is talking nonsense or not, and that the beautiful and graceful Ren Xiaoman everyone sees is a lie, and that in reality, she is just a vain, despicable, shameless bitch. Ren Xiaoman becomes furious and shouts, wanting to know what he knows. Then she calls him an orphan and makes it clear that if his talent were not worth something, he would not even have the chance to speak to anyone, and that she will not let him get away after daring to call her a bitch. Su Ming tells her to go ahead, but says that he fears she should be more concerned about how her story with Jiang Tang will affect the pure and innocent image she has. Ren Xiaoman becomes even more furious, grabs the MC's sword, and as she lunges at him, Su Ming comments that things are happening exactly as in his past life. She becomes confused when she sees a red glow around the sword. Su Ming comments that apparently she really likes sneak attacks, since he was already expecting this. Thus, he activates the sword's blood drinker ability, since after the sword locks onto a target, it can absorb the target's blood through attacks or contact to heal the wielder's wounds. As the sword's power rushes toward her, the MC says that the trap was set for her from the very beginning when he made her the target. Ren Xiaoman is struck squarely in the face, and she screams loudly in pain. Then she screams, saying that her beautiful face has been disfigured. Su Ming comments that she ended up doing that to herself. Then he makes it clear that at that moment, it is the time for his revenge, and that he will have Zhang Tang eliminate her. However, he begins to recall some moments with her in his past life. Because of that, he unequips his sword, and, as he leaves, and she trembles on the ground, asks Ren Xiaoman to go back and tell Zhang Tang that he is welcome to come settle accounts, and that she should consider the cut she received as something caused by him. Before leaving, Su Ming thinks that this cut also severed that concern he once cherished. At that same moment, the MC receives a message asking him to accept the gift. The gift in question is a marrow strengthening pill, a combat gear package, and 10,000 Advent coins. The gift was sent by Director Wang, who also left a message saying that the gift is a newbie package exclusively for the MC, since he possesses a 10-star talent, and that he hopes he can make good use of the gift and achieve excellent results in the novice dungeon. After that, on the next day at 6 in the morning, Su Ming is observing the marrow strengthening pill that the director gave him and thinks that the old man is quite generous. And as soon as he consumes it, he thinks that perhaps the old man feels pity that he awakened a 10-star talent only to take the sword controller class and wants to help compensate for that. The system informs that the Constitution attribute has gained an increase of 10 points and an additional 100 experience points. With that, Su Ming is promoted to a level 2 class holder and gains 10 free attribute points. Then the system congratulates the MC for reaching level 2. Su Ming is now at level 2 with some attributes increased. And because of that, the passive talent origin sword body is activated, where the heart is the source, a natural sword intent, and Su Ming can learn all sword type skills, ignoring all restrictions. Thus, the MC thinks that this was already expected from his 10-star golden talent, since he can learn a new talent as early as level 2. Then he becomes confident and reflects that he can hardly wait to show everyone what he has in the novice dungeon later. After that, in the novice dungeon area of the first Xuanzong Academy, some students begin to arrive, and the MC does not like this very much, since they are calling him to form a team. Su Ming wonders whether this bunch of people were not belittling his class the day before, then apologizes to everyone and says that he already has his team. Ji Yao hears this and immediately becomes anxious, wanting to know if he really already has a team. Then she says that she arrived early, hoping to be the first to form a team with him. Su Ming looks to the side and softly tells her that it is not true. Then he explains that what he is challenging is not for ordinary contribution rewards, and that if she formed a team with him, he would be worried that she might get hurt. Having said that, he emphasizes that he plans to challenge everything alone. She is surprised and comments that she understands. At that moment, a guy approaches asking for permission and wanting to know if the MC is the student Su Ming. Then he introduces himself, saying that his name is Yan Zi from Class 4, and that his awakened talent is the 9-star Demon Hunting Ranger, and that he was wondering if the MC would be willing to join his team. While Su Ming thinks that he remembers this guy from his past life, Ji Yao answers no to Yan Zi. Then she says that Su Ming has already formed a team with her and that he should not bother them anymore. Yan Zi comments that he did not know that and soon apologizes for bothering them. The MC realizes that Ji Yao is quite reliable and then thinks that the dungeon is about to open. At that moment, the director asks for the students' attention and announces that the 127th Novice Dungeon Challenge has officially begun. However, a bit awkwardly, he offers his most sincere apologies and says that he overslept and could not go to the site to cheer for them, and that he can only do a live broadcast from his home to explain the rules of the Novice Dungeon to them. He explains that the one-day Novice Dungeon Challenge is a trial that the newly awakened of that year must go through, and that each student has already been registered, so they can be identified as soon as they enter the dungeon. He also explains that inside the dungeon, each challenger will gain points and settlement rewards based on their individual contributions in the challenges. and that to ensure a high survival rate, he thinks it is better for them to challenge the dungeon in teams, and that they only need to complete the dungeon challenge within the day to finish the first dungeon challenge of their lives after awakening. Then he calls to them once again and comments that the moment that decides their fate has arrived. At that moment, Ji Yao notices that Su Ming has disappeared. The director comments that he does not want to delay them any longer and announces that the dungeon is officially open. As soon as the director finishes saying this, something happens at the entrance, and the students begin wondering if someone has already entered. Others comment that they also saw someone entering and that it was the 10-star student, Su Ming. Already inside the dungeon, the MC thinks that this novice dungeon seems very familiar because it suddenly makes him nostalgic, since back then, he was both afraid and excited, recklessly running around just to gain more contribution points. At that moment, a voice announces to the new class holders of Blue Star that the multiversal massacre is about to begin, and that the place there is full of danger and opportunity. Then it informs them that to leave there and receive the rewards, in addition to obtaining sufficient contribution value by killing the regular boss. There is another more difficult method, a method that the MC has in mind, and that this time he will choose the hardest challenge, which is to kill the supreme hidden boss. After that, in some part of the F-level Raging Tide Forest, Su Ming passes through the portal and, upon looking around, reflects that the novice dungeon map is random every year, and that the place is a completely different map from when he was in the same dungeon in his past life. In addition, all dungeon portal spawn points are random, so he knows that route planning is different for each challenger, and that the monsters he may encounter in the dungeon are also different. After thinking about this, and walking a bit through the area, Su Ming soon sees a monster, and thinks that it is an elite level one, but that although it is immobile like a tree, if its vines lock onto a target, the person will be dragged into the burning hollow on the monster's head and roasted. Thus, he remembers that his goal is to challenge the hidden boss, and therefore, he should try to avoid these troublesome monsters. And while he locks his reference point on the map, he thinks that since the reason he rushed to be the first in the dungeon was to recognize the route in advance and find what he needs to challenge the hidden boss. Although he knows the map changes, the way to fight the boss does not change, and that if more people enter later, it will be much harder to gather the items. After thinking about this, he dashes at full speed from tree to tree toward his objective. As soon as it reaches 7:30 in the morning, a girl passes through the portal, and one of her team members comments that it does not seem like there are other challengers nearby, until they are surprised to hear a very loud sound. Soon they see someone running amid the dust. That person is desperate, screaming for help, and they become even more frightened since the guy is being chased by a giant frenzied blood rat, and the others shout for everyone to split up and run immediately. Outside the dungeon, the system reports the dungeon status in real time, and that at 7:31 in the morning, 3 challengers were gnawed to death by a frenzied blood rat, and that the strongest among them was a 6-star talent awakened, Li Dabiao. Ji Yao, very surprised, comments that she has not even formed a team yet, and challengers are already being eliminated inside the dungeon. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, the girl from before is running desperately, and soon realizes that she ended up separating from her friends. Then she opens the map to see where she is, because she thinks she is completely lost, until she becomes very frightened upon hearing a very loud noise. And as soon as she turns to see what it is, she sees a shadow atop a tree of a very large creature, which, as it gets closer, she discovers is a monkey monster, which in turn lunges at the girl. She becomes desperate and screams for help. At that moment, a sword is raised and flies out, completely retaliating against the monkey monster, and Su Ming appears. Moments earlier, one of the competitors was quite frightened as he was about to be attacked by an elite-level grizzly bear, but he managed to run away screaming and wondering why he had run into an elite monster right at the beginning. However, his friend was not so lucky and was hit head-on. The bear continued eliminating competitors, and soon some swamp hunters appeared on the battlefield, followed by tracking dogs. One of the competitors shouted that he would make a channel call and reported that the transport point at the 9 o'clock position on the map was surrounded by monsters and requested immediate support. And while emphasizing that the 6 o'clock position also needed help, he failed to notice a draconized lizard approaching from behind. The members, while fighting various monsters, reported that the 11 o'clock position was also compromised and that the monsters kept arriving without stopping. A girl, upon approaching a tree, saw one of her group friends defeated and immediately informed Central Command that her team of 5 urgently needed help. Afterward, she watched her friends all defeated on the ground and fell to her knees, and as her entire body trembled, she commented that she thought that if they had not been told to hide, things would be different. But at the same time, she knew that the dungeon had only started half an hour ago and the difficulty of the novice dungeon was already far too high. She then began to question whether newly awakened students could really challenge it and come out alive, until she became quite surprised, as she had just seen a student completely eliminate a huge creature so easily. As soon as Su Ming approached her, she commented that he seemed so strong. Then she remarked that he eliminated the monster in an instant and thanked him for saving her, but soon realized that the student in question was Su Ming of 10 stars. He looked back and said that he was just passing by and emphasized that he would not be able to save her a second time, since he believed that the monster that had just attacked was not yet completely eliminated. She became very frightened, wondering what he meant. However, she ran off desperately, shouting that she would go after reinforcements for him and hoping that he could hold on. Su Ming activated his Eye of Perception and saw that the monster was a level 3 mutant monkey king and that the creature's ability was Slap. Thus, he concluded that it was no wonder the creature could survive continuous attacks from his silver-grade weapon in the rank F dungeon there. The Monkey King, as soon as it recovered from the attacks, charged at the MC, who was forced to retreat and thought that the creature's speed was not bad at all, but considered it would be a great opportunity for a contest, and recalled the abilities he had inherited from his past life. He activated the third inherited ability, Divine Shadow Step, an acceleration movement technique that increases speed by 50%, and at the moment it was activated, the MC became immune to all physical, magical, and spiritual attacks, and could not be targeted, but it consumed a large amount of stamina while active. After having his speed increased, Su Ming charged at high speed toward the Monkey King, which in turn tried to counterattack the MC, but he managed to jump at the last instant and soon appeared behind the enormous creature. The Monkey King immediately turned to try to land another blow, but Su Ming managed to dodge again. Now facing the creature, he commented that, apparently, there was no need for a contest. Having said that, he charged at the Monkey King, which could only watch the MC approaching at high speed. With little it could do, the creature was easily defeated, and Su Ming commented that he was already tired of playing around. Next, the MC saw in the system that he had successfully defeated the mutant Monkey King and had obtained loot, which was a low-grade linear/skill scroll. Su Ming pondered the acquired skill and reflected that, even though it was only low grade, it was not bad for a novice dungeon. He becomes surprised when he receives a first blood notification. Then he sees the system message informing that the level 2 sword controller player completed the first kill of the mutant Monkey King in the Furious Tide Forest, and the title granted was First Blood. At the same time, all competitors receive the dungeon achievement notification and are quite surprised, wondering if a player really eliminated a monster successfully and on top of that a mutant. The system also notifies that the dungeon title reward grants all players in the dungeon a small healing potion. A girl, while hiding from a monster, takes the potion she received and thinks she is safe, since she truly needed to replenish her health. Back where the MC is, he begins to hear various people throughout the forest wanting to know if the sword controller really earned a title and whether this so-called sword controller is the student Su Ming. Some people respond that it is Su Ming, that 10-star sword controller, but other competitors emphasize that it cannot be him, since there are several sword controllers that year when including neighboring cities. But that, in any case, someone completing the first kill proves that all newly awakened students have the strength to clear the dungeon. The MC does not like hearing any of this at all. Then he thinks that he forgot that the title system in the game would expose his strength, and because of that, he believes he will have to be more careful from now on and use his total concealment ability to hide as much as possible. But he did not expect that even after half an hour of dungeon time, no player had eliminated a monster yet. Thus, he runs from where he is, but ends up facing several level 3 hungry wolves. Su Ming thinks this is perfect, since he has in mind that the wolf is one of the 3 classic mobs for novice leveling, so he believes he can test his new sword attack skill that he bought, especially because he knows he used his talent ability All Things Sublimation before to improve the low-grade linear/skill scroll he obtained by eliminating the mutant monkey. His system soon informs him that the All Things Sublimation ability was activated and a new ability was obtained, which is Sword Unsheathing Slash, in which it is necessary to sheath the sword, focus the mind, and attack in a single strike. The wolves begin to howl and move even closer to the MC, who in turn wastes no time and tests his new ability, delivering a slash that goes straight toward the creatures. After eliminating the first hungry wolf and gaining experience points, the MC continues eliminating all of them, always gaining several experience points. After eliminating them all with his new ability, the system congratulates Su Ming as he managed to gain enough experience points to reach level 9, in addition to obtaining the title Hungry Wolf Legend. Next, he looks around and thinks that, using the property of Sword Unsheathing Slash, which allows long-range attacks, he can farm all the low-level hungry wolves. Then he sheaths the sword and reflects that the energy generated accumulated over a certain period of time can be quite efficient. Thus, he concentrates even more and, upon quickly unsheathing the sword, delivers another slash that goes toward the remaining hungry wolves. However, something blocks the attack, which leaves the MC quite surprised, since an enormous creature has just appeared and repelled his attack as if it were nothing. The creature that just appeared is the level 10 Wolf King. Some moments earlier, after some groups formed to enter the novice dungeon, Ji Yao was excited about the group that had entered, and as soon as they passed through the portal, they were already engaged in a terrible battle against several monsters. One of the members grips the sword firmly and delivers an attack against one of the creatures, while some members are lying on the ground. After defeating the monster, the group members begin to receive shared experience, and soon the system informs them that they successfully defeated a mutant field rat, and everyone becomes excited, shouting that they finally eliminated a special monster, while one of them advanced to level 2. Another member of the group was surprised, as another notification had arrived about a player obtaining a first blood on a leader monster. However, upon realizing that the player was from the fisherman class, everyone became curious about what the hell that meant, especially being at level 9. 10 minutes earlier, while the MC was fighting the Wolf King, the creature was at half health. Su Ming launches another attack at the creature's back and prepares himself again. Then he leaps, saying that the creature should not think that just because it is a Wolf King, it is a big deal. Having said that, he prepares his attack and delivers it, striking the Wolf King head-on. The system congratulates Su Ming for eliminating the Silverback Wolf King and informs that he obtained 500 experience points, in addition to reaching level 10, gaining 145 points in Sword Unsheathing, Slash Proficiency, 100 points in Swift Thunder, Sword Art Proficiency, and the loot obtained was the Iron-Cutting Clawbone and the Wolf King's Heart. In another area of the dungeon, a blonde boy is trying to eliminate one of the creatures, until he comments that he spent a tremendous amount of effort and finally dealt with the pack of hungry wolves. One of his friends comments that, luckily, the attack boost scroll rewarded by the dungeon title arrived in time, so he thinks that if it were not for that, they probably would have been eliminated. Young Ding becomes irritated upon hearing about the level 9 fisherman and says that there must be some problem with the novice dungeon, as he wants to know how a life skill master could reach level 9 so quickly, since he thinks this is practically mocking them, the players. Having said that, he slams his sword hard onto the ground and then comments that the damage of his broken novice cleaver is very low, and that if he had not been tricked and lost money to the MC at the weapon shop that time, he could at least have obtained a silver-grade weapon. The shaved head guy laughs and says that Su Ming is way too lucky, which makes Yang Ding furious upon hearing it, and he soon shouts for his friends to shut up, especially since he was the one who tanked the damage the whole time and still shared experience with them. And after eliminating so many wolves, he only reached level 2, and as soon as he thinks about the MC, he comments that he is extremely angry, but that he does not know whether he has already entered the dungeon, because if he encounters him, he swears he will destroy him and vent all his anger. Yang Ding's friends ask him not to get angry, since everyone there reached level 2, and because of that, They think that if they continue farming hungry wolves, it will become even easier. Meanwhile, the MC is standing still observing his system, as it is informing him that a primary class change task is being triggered and that the content of the task is randomly selected based on the MC's real situation. Su-Ming knows that in this life the first class change task is still triggered at level 10, and that the most important thing is that the opportunity has arrived, since in his past life, when he reached level 10, it was already after he had left the novice dungeon. Therefore, the first class change task, randomly updated, corresponded to an E-rank dungeon of higher difficulty that he was challenging at that time. But he knew that during that period, he could not complete a challenge of the same level no matter what, and even had to spend a good amount of time grinding up to level 15 before returning to complete the first class change task. And because of that, in the end, it greatly reduced the benefits of the rewards he received from the first class change task. However, he believes that this time it will be different because he leveled up to 10 while still inside the novice dungeon, and due to that, he believes things can be different. At that moment, the system congratulates the MC for triggering the first class change task, which is to eliminate the Guardian of the Red Rock Cave, a powerful elite monster. The Red Rock Cave is located within the Furious Tide Forest. Su-Ming, upon seeing that the task is indeed within the novice dungeon, thinks that this makes everything much easier, since he knows that next he only needs to add all the points gained upon leveling up into agility, and thus concludes that this first class change task is already in the bag. As soon as he applies the agility points, the system congratulates him once again, but now for breaking the barrier of 100 points in the agility attribute. So he obtained the skill Sword Martial Master, which is a passive skill in which the MC can equip sword-type weapons of any level, ignoring all requirements. Meanwhile, in Xuanjing City, at the First Academy, and in the meeting room, the person in charge of IT is informing the director that the ranking list of novice dungeon data for those with strong talents in neighboring cities has been released. The director comments that, apparently, some are missing from the statistics, so he wants to know where Su-Ming is, the one in whom he had great hopes. The director is informed that no one is missing, and that everything he is seeing is the data returned from the dungeon. Next, the person informing the director emphasizes that at 8 o'clock, the first blood title data from the dungeon showed that it was a sword controller, so he assumes it must be the student Su-Ming, whom the director cares about. The director, in turn, begins to wonder whether it was really just the first blood title. Then he comments that, although the MC's class is sword controller, he was born with full 10-star attributes. And in addition, he was given a novice gift pack, and therefore, even if he lacks skills, he thinks he should be able to eliminate some monsters using brute force alone, so he wants to know how he cannot even be in the top 500. At that moment, someone forcefully opens the door of the meeting room, wanting to know what the situation is. It is the vice mayor of Xuanjing City, An Ranling, who comments that the director had said the school produced a very good seed that year, and therefore, wants to know if it is the 10-star awakened named Su-Ming, since her secretary already showed the novice dungeon data, and the student, Su-Ming, whom the director recommended, is not even on the list. The old man asks the vice mayor not to get agitated and emphasizes that, although Su-Ming has 10-star talent, his class is sword controller, so he thinks his combat power at the beginning of the game will be somewhat weaker. Ranling begins to shout that even if the MC is a sword controller, she thinks it is impossible for him not to even make it into the top 500, so she asks the director to stop trying to explain himself, because she thinks he simply lied about the student's strength to obtain more qualification tokens for the Celestial Tower Council that year. The director becomes terrified and tries to explain that he really did not lie, but the vice mayor continues saying that, based on the current data she has, the director's school only has Yan Zi with 9-star talent, hidden class, Demon Hunting Ranger, currently in second place on the leaderboard, so she thinks he is the best candidate to compete with the genius from the neighboring city that year. Ranling also comments that there is another one she knows, Zhang Tang, the legitimate son of the Zhang family, who has the hidden class Magic Hammer Warrior, 8 in 8 stars and currently ranked 4th, with great potential. Therefore, she makes it clear that at the moment, she can only give 2 qualification tokens to the director for the Celestial Tower Council. Wang asks whether all schools should not receive 3 tokens as in previous years. Ranling leaves, saying that no one told the Director's Academy to finish last in recent years, then emphasizes that if they finish last again, next year, they will not even have slots to enter the Celestial Tower Council. The old man asks what if the students achieve good results later. The vice mayor replies that they will take that into account at the time, and since she is busy, she leaves. After she leaves, the director and the others in the room remain silent, but as soon as he looks at the qualification tokens, he comments that the Celestial Tower Council is an important means to accept tasks, obtain rewards, and improve strength, and therefore the Academy cannot lose the qualification to enter the Celestial Tower Council. However, he originally thought that with a 10-star awakened student, they could secure 1 more token, and in the end, they ended up with 1 less. Thus, the director hopes that Su Ming will give his best and not disappoint him. Meanwhile, the MC has just arrived at the entrance of the Red Rock Cave. He sees that the map indicates the task is there, and that, fortunately, he did not encounter any troublesome, small monsters along the way. And after entering the cave, he knows that he did not visit the place he is in during his past life, so he does not know what monsters might appear, until he hears a loud noise. A gold-digging goblin appears and stares at the MC, who in turn wastes no time and promptly eliminates the creature with a single blow. Su Ming knows that he cannot let the creature alert the entire cave, but the system informs that the MC has triggered the Goblin Cave alert. He is completely confused, since he only eliminated the creature without making any noise at all. Quickly, several creatures begin to move, and Su Ming realizes that the first-class change task is not as simple as he imagined. As soon as several monsters appear in front of him, the system warns that the goblins inside the Red Rock Cave will launch a fierce attack against the MC. While eliminating some of them, the MC knows that the goblin mode is a type of self-indulgent lifestyle that deviates from social norms and lacks guilt, manifesting as laziness, sloppiness, or greedy behavior. But even so, having no other alternative, he continues fighting non-stop. However, he soon has to run, because he knows that although their level is not high, they win by sheer numbers, and when he looks at his sword, he does not know if its durability will hold up, until he notices something and sees an enormous creature about to deliver a powerful blow. Su Ming jumps at the last instant to avoid being hit, but the goblins soon prepare arrows to attack Su Ming while he is in the air, and as soon as the creatures begin firing the arrows, the MC tries to deflect them with his sword, but because there are so many arrows, he ends up being hit by some of them. When Su Ming returns to the ground, he quickly retreats and thinks that the goblins are quite clever, since they even know that it is difficult for someone to make evasive adjustments while in the air. The creatures notice the MC distracted and charge at him with full force. Su Ming tries to block the attacks, but becomes worried and thinks that his mana, at the beginning of the game, is not sufficient to sustain using Divine Shadow Step for very long, and to make matters worse, he sees another group of elite goblins approaching. He then concludes that, since it is the early game, he is completely lacking in skills, and therefore thinks that it is indeed a bit difficult to eliminate them head-on. With that in mind, he leaps into the air and decides that for now, he just needs to be a bit more flexible and dodge attacks out of caution. Thus, he runs at high speed, and after creating distance and seeing that the goblins are still coming after him, while channeling his power, he smiles and asks the creatures to come at him with everything they have. The goblins become frightened as soon as they see a strong glow. After channeling his power, Su Ming activates the sword unsheathing slash skill and delivers his powerful attack. The goblins cannot even attempt to defend themselves and are completely defeated. Su Ming continues advancing, thinking that as long as he secures the advantage of height, he knows there will be no problems. As he delivers another linear slash, he thinks that he will be able to make maximum use of his sword unsheathing slash. After some time eliminating goblins, the MC stops in front of the elite grade goblin captain and comments that, apparently, only it is left. Meanwhile, outside the Red Rock Cave, one of Yang Ding's friends is hiding and, looking at the cave entrance, comments that when he was exploring the path, he heard sounds of fighting coming from inside the cave ahead. Yang Ding tells his friend not to be ridiculous, since the system description informs that the area ahead has monsters of level 7 and above, so he wants to know who would dare challenge the interior of the cave. The bald man emphasizes that he really did hear sounds of fighting coming from inside. At that moment, the blonde boy is surprised by something and then comments that apparently someone is coming out of the cave. The shaved head guy wants to know who dares to farm monsters there at that moment. Yang Ding becomes even more surprised since he sees that it is the MC, the guy who won the bet at the weapon shop. Su Ming looks at his system and thinks that the first-class change mission was quite interesting but also very dangerous, until he notices something. Yang Ding is charging at him with full force. Su Ming dodges the first attack, which leaves the blonde boy quite surprised, but he soon shouts for his friends to surround the MC and not let him escape. After being surrounded, Su Ming makes it clear that he was not planning to run away at all. Yang Ding comments that Su Ming caused him a huge loss a few days ago, and that the MC can only blame himself for having the bad luck of running into him there. The MC finds this strange and soon wants to know who they are. The blonde boy cannot believe this, and the shaved head guy comments that Su Ming completely forgot about them. Yang Ding becomes furious and shouts that the MC really forgot about winning 5,000 Advent coins. Having said that, he charges together with his friends. Su Ming smiles, equips his sword, and says that he will test his new skill. Then he activates sword control, and controlling his weapon, begins to unleash multiple slashes at everyone. Yang Ding's group falls to the ground and starts screaming in pain. Su Ming thinks that his sword control was a total success, so he continues controlling it, and the blonde boy wants to know how sword control is possible and how such a thing can exist. Su Ming raises the sword very high, while the blonde boy comments that the skill he is seeing requires a sword master to be at the intermediate stages to learn. The MC has in mind that the sword control skill is an ability he obtained from a silver grade skill scroll dropped after eliminating the goblin captain, which was upgraded to a gold grade skill scroll using his all things sublimation talent, and that when he opened it randomly, he did not expect to obtain the sword control skill, which fits so perfectly. In this way, he knows that when the news spreads, they will be even more certain that he is of the sword controller class. However, the most important thing was that after eliminating the goblins and completing the Red Rock Cave, he obtained the hidden location blueprint of the final chest of the first-class change mission. And as soon as he opened the hidden blueprint, he was quite surprised, since the system informed that the coordinates of the hidden treasure were Red Rock Cave Part 2. Su Ming became even more confused when he saw the mission subtitle, which was Goblin Trade and Life. Later, in another area of the forest, the group of girls was excited after finishing eliminating the monsters. One of the girls comments that they finally cleared the mobs in that area together and soon wants to know who said that an all-girl team could not survive. But she knows that they all need to thank the 7-Star Awakened for carrying them, and that they also need to divide the loot. While one of the girls goes to check what the monsters drop, the blonde girl looks back and asks her friend if she is okay, and if she is tired, and the girl replies that everything is fine. At that moment, the 7-Star Awakened becomes surprised and soon wants to know where the girl who went to check the drops is, until she becomes frightened upon hearing a scream. Then, she looks to one side, looks to the other, and desperately wants to know where the other girl went, since she had only said that she would check the drops so they could divide them. Then she decides to go to where the monsters were and sees that there is nothing on the ground. Extremely frightened, she wants to know how this is possible, until she lets out a loud scream that can be heard from very far away. Meanwhile, the MC is observing through the system the lifestyle of goblins, who usually inhabit dark and damp places such as caves, underground tunnels, deep forests, or ruins, and fearing strong light, these locations help them hide from natural enemies and facilitate ambushes and attacks. In addition, goblins generally live in groups, forming small tribes or clans, and each group is led by a chief or elder. Under the chief's command are warriors, craftsmen, hunters, and shamans, each with specific duties, and the division of labor is clear, with an emphasis on group cooperation. Su Ming also sees that, even in hostile environments, goblins use any means necessary to loot female creatures of any species in order to maintain their birth rate. In reproductive cycles, female goblins usually have a gestation period of only 1 to 3 months, far exceeding the reproductive efficiency of normal creatures. As for early sexual maturity, young goblins reach adulthood 1 to 2 years after birth and can participate in reproduction forming a rapid cycle of reproducing, maturing, and reproducing again. The MC cannot believe the bizarre information about goblins until he sees the location of his mission on his map and wonders if it is really there, since he remembers that in the previous mission there was an entrance to a cave, but where he is now, there are only trees. He then looks around and questions whether the coordinates could be wrong until he hears a noise amid the mist, and, with the Eye of Perception activated, manages to see a small creature. Su Ming laughs and thinks that he now understands why it is called Red Rock Cave Part 2, because people naturally assumed it was also in a cave in the mountain, but in reality, it needs to be combined with the element of buried treasure there, since the place is an underground den. As he begins to descend, he thinks they were very clever, since they are using fire smoke to hide the entrance, and upon reaching the ground, the MC stays alert and looking around, thinks that he really learned something this time, and that eliminating just one of the goblins he sees there will alert the entire den, like last time, since he has in mind that he is there only for the treasure. Then he sees a girl lying on the ground and thinks that apparently she was ambushed by the smoke trap, since he knows these things are really as disgusting as the stories say. And as he walks a little further forward, he sees another girl screaming, begging the goblins not to come closer. She falls to the ground and is cornered by the creatures, and Su Ming thinks that apparently there is still a challenger alive, since the timing is perfect, because she can draw the goblins' attention. That way, it will become much easier to dig up the treasure, and unfortunately, he will let her be eliminated, for he knows that she can only blame herself for not having the strength to challenge the beginner dungeon, until he is surprised to hear her shouting that she does not want to play anymore, and that she needs to be saved, because she will give a huge reward, in addition to saying that her sister is the vice director of the Jiang'an financial conglomerate. At that moment, the goblins rush toward the girl and she begins to scream desperately. Therefore, Su Ming controls his sword and makes it plunge forcefully into the ground, drawing the goblins' attention. Next, he leaps up and activates sword control. The sword begins to leave its sheath, releasing a strong light, and the MC activates the plundering slash, making the light even more intense, dazzling the goblins. As they run away, Su Ming thinks about the goblins' lifestyle, and that he will exploit their weakness against light, because the energy released when the plundering slash is unsheathed comes with an intense glow, and as long as he does not eliminate a single goblin, he thinks he will be fine. At that moment, the girl falls to the ground and soon comments that she no longer has the strength to run. Su Ming stays alert, thinking that he cannot alert the other goblins in the den, and upon noticing that the creatures are no longer chasing them, concludes that it is exactly as he had thought. Jiang Yunqing thanks the MC for saving her and introduces herself. Su Ming thinks that she really is the girl from that photo that was shown when he was at the weapon shop. Therefore, he tells Yunqing not to thank him as he was just passing by. She asks him to wait a moment and says that when she logs out of the game, she will give him a huge reward. The MC starts to leave and tells her to talk about that if she manages to stay alive. Yunqing runs after him, asking him not to leave her behind. Su Ming tells her not to follow him and emphasizes that he has already saved her once more, and that, judging by her strength, he thinks she will only get in his way. Then he is surprised by something that has just appeared in his system, as it is showing that the treasure is very close by. As he digs a little, he comments that apparently the goblins that were following him still have not appeared. Yunqing replies that they have not, and emphasizes that she checked carefully. It does not take long for the MC to find the treasure, and he soon thinks that the biggest drop of that dungeon level is a random silver quality lottery chest, and that because of that, he will use his all things sublimation talent to improve the quality of the chest. As soon as he does this, Yunqing looks to the side when she sees a strong light and is completely impressed, since she is seeing in the MC's hand a low-grade gold lottery chest. Su Ming keeps in mind that, as the name itself indicates, lottery chests have a high probability of randomly drawing higher-tier items, skill books, or equipment, and, as the chest begins to open, both of them become curious to know what will be drawn. It does not take long, and the system congratulates the MC and informs him that he obtained the Shadow Flow set and the Soul Healer Skill Scroll. Su Ming is stunned, commenting that he worked so hard on the first-class change mission for that extra reward and only got this. He knows that the Shadow Flow set even seems decent, but he wants to know what the hell this platinum-grade soul healer skill scroll is, which exceeded expectations since it does not match his class at all. A little embarrassed, Yuncheng asks if it is not because she is there, then says that her awakened class is a 7-star soul healer, which leaves the MC even more stunned. Right after that, he sees that Yunqing has joined his party and that he has become the party leader. Meanwhile, around 9 o'clock in the dungeon, a player is eliminating several others to complete his first class change mission. With only a few players remaining, he smiles and, amid several eliminated players around him, makes it clear that the weak have only one path, elimination, and soon calls for the next one. Ji Yao gets ready and summons her skeleton. After that, some time passes, and Ji Yao is trying to escape from the player who is following her. She starts climbing a rock and keeps hoping not to be found. The player gets very close to her but cannot find her until Ji Yao unintentionally makes noise by stepping on some stones, which soon draws the player's attention, and he leaps toward her. Ji Yao jumps backward to avoid being hit by the attack, but ends up suffering some cuts on her arm. The player comments that he never expected that she, a little chicken, could last so long against his hunt. Then he emphasizes that she has already wasted a good part of his time, and because of that, he needs to praise her, since for a girl, he thinks she truly has skill, and that apparently the Xuanjing Academy is not completely full of trash after all. Ji Yao asks why, since his uniform clearly shows that he is a student of the Wujing Academy from the neighboring city of Wuyang. Ji Yao also wants to know why he is in the beginner dungeon of her region to eliminate innocents. He laughs and replies that it is not for any special reason, but because his level 10 first class change mission ended up assigning him this task, in which he needs to eliminate 50 players. Ji Yao is surprised to hear this, and the player continues by saying that with a mission like this, he cannot simply go around eliminating everyone in the dungeon region of his own city, and therefore had no choice but to fly to the beginner dungeon of her region in his private jet and eliminate everyone he finds. However, the player tells her to blame her academy for being the one with the most trash students among all the cities in the region. That said, as he charges at her, he shouts that if she is going to pick on someone, she had better choose the easiest target. Ji Yao uses her ability to summon an undead basic skeleton, and while the player fights against the skeleton, he says that her little toys are too basic and cannot withstand a single blow from him. Then, he makes it clear that this time she will not escape. Therefore, he activates the piercing blood blades ability and launches the attack at her. Close to being hit, Ji Yao notices another attack coming, and this other attack manages to intercept the ability launched by the player from the other academy. At that moment, some people from Ji Yao's group appear, saying that they are there to provide cover for her. Ji Yao notices that they are those classmates from before, one of whom is Yan Zi. Meanwhile, the MC is receiving a system notice informing him that he will submit the treasure fragment, so he concludes that with this, the mission is complete. Thus, the system informs that the first class change mission has been completed, and because of that, the MC advanced to the first transition of the Sword God, gaining 10 points in all attributes. In addition, the Origin Sword body talent had its effect increased, the power of sword techniques increased by 2 times, the speed of sword techniques also increased by 2 times, and finally, with the proficiency gain of sword techniques increased by 3 times. Su Ming thinks that now he has even better chances to challenge the hidden boss of the dungeon he is in. Yun Qing is impressed by something on her system, and the MC looks to the side to see what it is about. Yun Qing receives a notice that the Soul Healer skill scroll was successfully used, and the obtained skill was Soul Surge, a platinum-level skill that consumes soul power to be activated, and when active, all party members gain 200% increased experience. Su Ming immediately goes to her system screen to check it, and, as soon as he sees it, cannot believe the amount of experience increase percentage that the skill will grant. Then, while observing her, he thinks that she randomly drew a god-tier leveling skill and, because of that, knows that her luck is very good. Thus, he soon gets an idea and stares at her even more. Then he points his finger at Yun Qing and says that he changed his mind, emphasizing that earlier she asked him to help her clear the dungeon, and that, because of that, he thinks he will help her. While she gets excited, saying that the mercenaries her sister hired were all eliminated in the Goblin Den, and that with him, someone who soloed the goblin den while bringing her along, she thinks she will certainly be safer. Su-ming takes a deep breath and thinks that he really does not like this type of rich young woman who buys shortcuts with money, but for the sake of that skill, he thinks he will have no other choice. Then, he is surprised, as he is seeing a message from Ji Yao. Meanwhile, the player from the other academy is fighting against Ji Yao's group and, without much difficulty, manages to eliminate another player. Then he looks ahead and sees the demon sealing arrow skill coming toward him, but easily manages to deflect it with his weapon. Yanzi comments that he would not have imagined that the opponent they are facing would deflect his skill so easily. One of the group members, upon seeing his brother being defeated, runs desperately to try to help him, but ends up being hit by the piercing blood blade skill and is eliminated as well. Ji Yao comments that the guy they are facing is far too strong, and Yanzi says that his teammates have all already been eliminated by the player. Ji Yao comments that the Wujing Academy really seems to have such a powerful awakened, and Yanzi emphasizes that there are many with that level of strength, and that before challenging the beginner dungeon, he carried out an investigation. Thus, he explains that an awakened with superior strength who uses a blade is the genius of the neighboring city of Wuyang, Li Chenguang, a 10-star innate talent with the hidden class blade maniac, who in turn comments that only the two of them are left there and that they really wasted a lot of his time, since the progress is still only at 35 out of 50. Yanzi prepares himself and tells Ji Yao that as a long-range class, if he cannot create distance, he thinks he will not be able to deal with Chenguang. She emphasizes that her mana is already at rock bottom, and that, because of that, she can no longer summon undead to provide cover. Yanzi becomes worried and asks whether they can still wait for reinforcements. Ji Yao thinks about the message sent to Su-ming, but replies that she does not think they will have reinforcements. Chenguang laughs and says that apparently the two of them there are completely isolated and without help. That said, he charges forward shouting that he will first defeat the annoying archer. Ji Yao steps in front and, while blocking her opponent's charge, shouts for Yanzi to just run away. But Chenguang lands a powerful blow on her and tells her to stop overestimating herself. He then makes it clear that a weakling like her has no right to save anyone. Ji Yao, with no way to defend herself, can only wait for the worst. However, at that moment, a sword begins to fly rapidly and blocks Chenguang's attack. She is surprised, thinking it can only be Su-ming. He appears on top of a hill, asking if she is all right. Then he makes it clear that she has full ability to save everyone. He then thinks about the message she sent, where she said that the 9 o'clock area was dangerous, and that one should not approach it under any circumstances. The MC also begins to remember his past life and how Ji Yao did not fear danger to save him. Thus, he knows that in this life she encountered danger, and, recalling the message she sent, concludes that even so his friend prioritizes protecting others. Ji Yao comments that she had said by message that it was dangerous there, but is interrupted by the MC and is surprised, as she sees him step forward and say that she should not always worry about others first. Su-ming looks at her smiling and makes it clear that he will protect her as well. At that moment, Chenguang notices the MC's sword moving on its own and soon asks whether it could be a sword control ability. Su-ming grabs his sword, leaps toward Chenguang, and without saying a single word tries to strike him. While blocking the attack, Chenguang asks whether the MC is that 10-star sword controller. Su-ming becomes even more serious, applies even more force to his attack, and shouts, asking whether Chenguang is the guy who dared to hurt Ji Yao. Yanzi comments that the MC is truly incredible and that he will provide support from afar, since now he thinks they will have a chance to win. Then he becomes surprised and confused when he feels his HP being restored, and quickly turns around to see who is healing the two of them. Yuncheng says that she is the MC's teammate and introduces herself, but as she is exhausted, she falls to the ground out of breath, still saying that she will help them with healing. Yanzi goes over to her and says that it is always great to have a healer in the group. Yuncheng, with a very trembling voice, says that she is still not very familiar with her healing abilities and that she will need a bit more time. Ji Yao, feeling a little jealous, asks whether Su-ming had not said that he would not form a team and how he has a teammate at the moment. While being healed, Yanzi apologizes to Yunqing for the trouble, but hopes that she can be quick. as it is dangerous for the MC to deal with Chengguang alone. The healer comments that he does not need to worry, which leaves him confused. While she continues healing, she says that Su Ming is very incredible, who in turn continues to frantically attack Chengguang without giving him an opening. He tries to withstand the MC's assault and wonders whether Su Ming is not just a sword controller, as he would not have imagined that he would have such a movement technique. As soon as the MC stops advancing, both retreat a little. Chengguang comments that this was already expected of a 10-star awakened as well, and that he has to admit that the MC's strength truly exceeded his expectations. Then he prepares himself and says that they will see that day whether he, Li Chengguang, the 10-star blade maniac awakened of Wuyang City, is the strongest, or whether it will be Su Ming, the 10-star sword controller of Xuanjing Academy. The MC thinks about his opponent's name and reflects that he has heard of it before. He then knows that this guy was indeed someone important in his past life, but that he did not have the chance to meet him and did not expect to encounter him so early in this life. Thus, he smiles and, as he charges forward, says that he will see whether his sword is sharper or whether Chengguang's blade is harder. With that said, he strikes, but is blocked by Chengguang, who in turn counterattacks with the piercing blood blades ability. Su Ming wonders whether his opponent is really throwing flying knives at him so openly, so he repels the attack. But Chengguang laughs and says that the MC fell into his trap, activating his immobilization ability and locking Su Ming's movements. Thus, Chengguang takes advantage of the chance and once again throws one of his daggers. Su Ming still manages to control his sword and make it return, then activates sword control and makes his weapon strike the ground below, creating an explosion. In this way, he frees himself from the immobilization and dodges Chengguang's attack at the last moment. Su Ming smiles and makes it clear that now it is his turn to attack, asks for his sword to return, and soon commands it to attack Chengguang's back, saying that he wants to see him block without holding any weapon. With no way to defend himself, Chengguang is struck head-on by the sword controlled by the MC. He tries to endure the injuries, grabs his dagger, and charges at the MC, saying that now it is the MC who is without a weapon. Su Ming activates the Divine Shadow Step, and while Chengguang unleashes his Chaotic Shadow 5 Blades ability, the MC manages to dodge all the attacks, which makes Chengguang furious, wanting to know how his opponent suddenly increased his speed. Su Ming calls for his sword and, laughing, says that he is sorry and informs him that his sword has returned. Meanwhile, Ji Yao and Yan Zi, as soon as their health is restored, run with the intention of helping Su Ming, but soon stop when they see that both the MC and Chengguang are standing still. Then they want to know if the battle is already over and who the winner was, until their eyes light up as they see Chengguang fall to his knees and realize that the MC defeated such a strong opponent. However, while the MC is distracted, a red aura begins to envelop Chengguang's body. Yuncheng notices this and shouts a warning to Su Ming. He immediately turns around and sees Chengguang charging at him with full force, saying that he let his guard down. Yanzi, Yunqing, and Ji Yao are very surprised by what they are seeing, as Chengguang manages to land a solid hit on the MC. Right after that, he activates his supreme technique, the Swift Blade of the Tropical Forest, and Su Ming is attacked from all sides. Chengguang begins to laugh like a madman and shouts, welcoming the MC to his blade formation. Ji Yao shouts, worried about her friend, and tries to go to help him, but Yanzi holds her back and tells her to calm down. He then makes it clear that she would only be eliminated in vain if she rushed into the middle of the enemy's ability. Ji Yao keeps shouting, asking Yanzi to let her go, because even if she is eliminated, she will try to save Su Ming, until she is stunned to hear the MC telling her to listen carefully. Ji Yao wants to know what he means, but he only tells her not to come closer. Chengguang charges at the MC, wanting to know how this is possible, since he was hit by so many blades and is still alive. However, he is soon surprised when he hears Su Ming ask if he is sure he really hit him. Chengguang realizes that the sound did not come from in front of him, and, upon attacking the MC's body, he realizes it was only a clone. Su Ming appears, saying that he finally noticed. He then comments that he bets Chengguang would never imagine that an ordinary sword controller would have such an ability. The MC is equipped with all the parts of the Dark Sword set, which, when equipped, causes all sword-type skills to deal additional dark attribute damage, and this damage can ignore physical defense. The set has a skill called Shadow Clone, which generates a realistic shadow for defense. When the Shadow Clone is active, attacking will cause an additional slash, and the power of this slash is equivalent to 50% of the damage of his normal attack. As he approaches Chen Guang, Su Ming explains that it is his set's ability. Chen Guang becomes nervous and says that there is no set that can be collected in the novice dungeon, but that there might be only one way to obtain it. So he wants to know whether the MC has already completed the first class change. Su Ming replies that he guessed correctly and says that he completed the primary class change mission a long time ago. Chen Guang, as he turns around furiously and ready to attack, says that the MC was faster. However, Su Ming shows no mercy at all and attacks first. After being attacked, Chen Guang throws something shiny into the air, which leaves Su Ming intrigued. The glow becomes even stronger and ends up blinding Su Ming's vision. Yan Zi comments that what they are seeing can only be a life-saving accessory. Yun Chung asks what he means. The archer explains that it is an item that allows the player to urgently escape the dungeon if used at a critical moment, and that it is not an item that can be farmed in the dungeon, since the item in question costs hundreds of thousands of advent coins. Su Ming emphasizes that, apparently, the neighboring city wants to protect that 10-star genius of theirs and truly spent a fortune. After that, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the person responsible for analyzing the competition data is surprised. The director, while eating, wants to know what happened and whether she happened to gain access to the player's level ranking in real time inside the dungeon. She points at the monitor, answers no, and informs him that the data show that, in the 9 o'clock direction of the dungeon, between 12 o'clock and 12:30, there were data indicating the elimination of several players. Wang asks what is strange about that, and whether some teams of players encountered difficult monsters. She replies that that is not it, and explains that the data analysis shows they were eliminated by data from a player who is not from their city's region. The director is surprised and says that, apparently, the neighboring city is up to something again. He then asks her to save all those data records. Next, he explains that the novice dungeons of each city are competing to see who can clear them first, and that they, from Xuanjing Academy, as the ones lagging behind, have once again become easy targets in the eyes of certain people. Having said that, he wants to know how the situation is for the students attacking the dungeon at this exact moment. She says that the dungeon's progress is good, and that most of the transport areas have already been taken by the students, and that the limited dungeon images they can access in real time show some strong players already organizing large groups to begin attacking the dungeon boss level, and that leading the group is that son of the Zhang family, the 8-star innate magical hammer warrior, Zhang Tang. The director comments that, as expected, the blonde youngster is still full of potential, as he remembers that, a few hours ago, Zhang Tang was a level 6 competitor on the list, and that the regular final boss level of the novice dungeon is 12, and since he is leading a large group, he believes he must already be close to level 10. He then hopes that Zhang Tang can defeat the boss as quickly as possible to bring pride to the academy. At this moment, the other person responsible for analyzing the data reports that the real-time ranking data analysis has just come out, and that it is as the director guessed, Zhang Tang's current level is already 9, almost reaching 10, and that he is tied for first place on the real-time data list. Upon learning that Zhang Tang is tied with someone, the director considers that the other might be the student Yan Sei. The technician replies yes, and informs him that right behind them, in second and third place, are female students, explaining that they are the undead summoner Ji Yao at level 7 and the soul healer Jiang Yunqing at level 8. The director starts to worry and asks whether the technician has any information about the student Su Ming. He replies that, in the data for the highest level rankings, he has not seen the student Su Ming yet. The director asks him to look up what level the student Su Ming is at the moment. After a few minutes searching, the technician cannot believe what he is seeing, and comments that the student Su Ming is at level 2. The director widens his eyes and asks how that can be. The technician explains that the data show that after Su Ming got the first blood, his level never increased again. After that, at 2:30 in the afternoon, the MC receives a system notification informing him that he has successfully eliminated the elite spike tooth beast, and, because of this, he advances to level 14, unlocking the hidden set appearance. Ji Yao is impressed, saying that in just a little over 2 hours of grinding monsters, they have already gained several levels. Yanzi also comments that he is already at level 10 and can already challenge the dungeon boss, and that the reason they managed to level up so fast is because of Yun Qing's experience buff skill, and that they need to thank her for that. She turns around and emphasizes that all of this is thanks to the MC for having given such an incredible skill. Ji Yao makes it clear that the team she is in now is truly amazing, because with Yun Qing's healing and experience increase, and Yanzi's precise long-range damage output, she thinks she can say that she can summon cute creatures to provide them with cover, but that the most important thing is having Su Ming, such an incredible player, leading them. He asks everyone not to be modest, since it is all due to their strength, because he is just riding on their light. Ji Yao asks whether he is being sarcastic, because she knows that if it were not for him saving everyone, she believes they would certainly have already been eliminated under Chen Guang's blade. Then, she starts to remember when the MC jumped in front to defend her, and when he was fighting Chen Guang on equal footing. Then, a little embarrassed, and with a different tone of voice, she emphasizes that watching Su Ming fight was so incredible and cool, and because of that, she believes that if their combo goes to challenge the dungeon boss right now, she thinks they will certainly be able to clear it easily. Su Ming comments that she is right, but makes it clear that unfortunately, his objective is not that ordinary boss. Saying this, he takes out a key and explains that what he wants is to challenge that even more powerful hidden boss, since he obtained the drop from the elite spike-tooth beast, the Water Ripple Key. Next, he explains that to find the hidden boss of the novice dungeon, one must first solve the 3 riddles guided by the dungeon data and collect the 3 corresponding items. At this moment, the system announces the first riddle, in which, when the silver moon hangs over the shore, the blue waves split and the red armor sleeps in the core of the cold abyss. Su Ming thinks about the riddle and concludes that there is no dungeon weather in the novice dungeon, so he smiles and says that this means the surface of the lake ahead, behind them, is exactly the location of the hidden boss. With that, the system announces the second riddle, in which the lake water turns into mist, using iris petals as a guide. Beneath the sinking sand, the armor still guards the ancient pact. Su Ming begins to think about a few moments since entering the dungeon, and soon says that since entering the dungeon, he has already collected the trigger item, the iris flower, from the monkey monster area as quickly as possible, so he knows that, combined with the Water Ripple Key obtained through the hint of the third riddle, it will work. He then asks the MC to hold the star pattern key to reflect the bottom of the lake, and 9 ripples circle the rock. The knight rests upon the sword, awaiting the light to break through the turbid waves. As soon as Su Ming completes the combination, a power around the key begins to emanate, and he comments that he thinks it was a success. Soon, everyone notices that the lake ahead is forming a whirlpool, and from the center of the lake, something begins to emerge, and says that, with the pact as a guide, and the light of the stars as a call, a creature stands upon the waves, and the chant continues saying that the red-armored knight sleeping in the cold abyss will break the limit with the blue waves. At this moment, the system repeatedly announces that the hidden boss has appeared. This is the Lake Guardian, the Lost Knight. Yanzi and Ji Yao enter the group, and Su Ming becomes the leader once again, who soon asks everyone to prepare for battle. Having said that, the system announces that the hidden boss challenge has just begun. However, 15 minutes later, while everyone is hidden, the system warns that the red-armored knight is seeking a hostile target. Yanzi asks whether hiding the way they are really is a good idea. Ji Yao, a little awkwardly, asks whether they should try once more. Su Ming thinks about something, but soon points ahead and asks everyone to say how they will eliminate the boss, since he runs so fast while mounted on the horse. Next, they open the system and see that the knight's mount speed is 500 points, in addition to being level 19, having 301 points in the strength attribute, 250 in constitution, 102 in agility, 103 in spirit, and 10 points in luck, as well as having heavy armor mastery at level 5. Su Ming comments that the combined speed of everyone there does not even reach half of the knight's stats. Then, he is surprised by a noise. In the middle of the forest, The knight is chasing some players, who only try to run while screaming and calling for help, but since the knight is much faster, he manages to catch up to the players and eliminate them easily, while the boss continues defeating several players in the middle of the forest. The MC's group leader hears the players' screams from afar. Yanzi comments that he thinks this is already the third wave of nearby players that have been wiped out by the knight. Yunqing comments that since they were responsible for summoning the hidden boss, they need to hurry up. At this moment, Ji Yao comes running back, saying that she did as the MC ordered. A little tired, she explains that they used all the group's mana potions and prepared that delaying trap. Su Ming comments that she did a good job and asks Yanzi and Yunqing to follow the planned action. The MC thinks that in his past life, he did not challenge the hidden boss of the novice dungeon, and that most awakened would not risk summoning a hidden boss in the novice dungeon right after awakening, in addition to the fact that the novice dungeon can only be challenged once in a lifetime. Therefore, he knows that there are not many people who know the true face of the hidden boss in the novice dungeon, since only in some vague records can one find the riddles of that solution method. But fortunately, he memorized them all. However, he did not expect that the hidden boss's equipment would include a mount with 500 speed, so he believes that to eliminate it, they will need to knock him off the horse. Thus, he gives the signal, and Yanzi soon prepares his multiple hunting shot skill and fires it toward the knight. The attack goes all out, but the boss easily manages to repel the attacks with a simple sword slash, which in turn activates heavy armor mastery. From the top of the cliff, Yanzi thinks that the knight has heavy armor mastery at level 5, and that, because of this, he believes his archery skills caused almost no damage to him. However, at that same moment, the Lake Guardian of Blood is locking the aggro target onto the archer, and as soon as he realizes this, Yanzi shouts for Yunqing and tells her that the aggro has shifted to him. She replies that she understands and soon begins to blow on the campfire she just made to spread a lot of smoke. Su Ming keeps in mind that the first step was for Yanzi to lure the boss back with his precise long-range skills. The second step is for Yunqing to create smoke in the area the boss has to pass through to confuse his vision. Since he knows this trick was learned in the goblin's lair, the knight begins to search for his target in the middle of the forest, and soon becomes surrounded by a lot of smoke, but then hears something and comes across several skeletons trying to attack the horse. Ji Yao activates her delayed trap release skill, and while the area skill duration is 3 minutes and 25 seconds, she thinks that if it were not for Su Ming, she would never know that the basic summoning skill can combine a large number of summoned monsters into a delayed trap spell. The boss attacks the skeletons so as not to be knocked down, but soon notices something approaching from behind. Yunqing activates her magic absorption slowing technique, and while he is hidden, the MC thinks that the third step is to use the skeleton trap prepared in advance by Ji Yao to restrain the movement of the boss's horse, and that combined with Yunqing's slowing magic, they would be able to lock the boss's movement at the same time. He knows he has to admit that if it were not for their cooperation, he might not really be able to solo the knight. Thus, he leaps toward the boss, grabs his arm, and upon seeing that he has a firm hold, kicks the horse. In this way, he manages to knock the knight to the ground. As soon as everyone sees the knight trying to get up, Yunqing comments that the plan to knock the boss off the horse was a success. But Ji Yao emphasizes that they still cannot lower their guard, because this is only the first part. 10 minutes earlier, after learning the plan, Ji Yao commented that she even thought it was a great plan, but that in this way, her and Yunqing's mana would be exhausted, because even if they managed to knock the boss off the horse, they would no longer be able to deal damage to the boss afterward. Su Ming had said that it would not be a problem, since that would already be enough, and that afterward, they could just leave it to him. Thus, now facing the knight, the MC asks everyone to leave the boss to him. Having said that, he gives a slight smile and soon charges at the knight. Both begin to exchange many blows, and after separating for a brief moment, soon cross swords again. A frenetic battle begins to unfold. Yanzi comments that the battle is very intense, and that Su Ming is able to fight the hidden boss on equal footing alone, but he knows he cannot just keep watching. However, Ji Yao asks him to wait and emphasizes that the MC had asked to leave the boss to him, and, because of that, everyone there will need to trust him. since the rest have their own mission. At this moment, Su Ming appears behind the knight with his divine shadow step skill, and in the blink of an eye, unleashes several consecutive slashes. The MC continues to have his speed increased, and, because of that, he does not stop attacking the knight for even a second. And while doing so, he calls the boss slow and says that he would not have imagined that after losing the horse, he would be so weak. Saying this as he looks at the knight's current stats, which now, without the horse, have only 55 points of speed. Next, Su Ming delivers another sword strike and ends up thinking that the hidden boss, in the end, is nothing special. Having said that, he channels power into his sword and shouts for the boss to disappear once and for all. Su Ming attacks once more, but ends up noticing that the boss's heavy armor is very resistant, because it is not even affecting his HP yet, and the boss, in turn, delivers a powerful attack. But Su Ming manages to leap backward to avoid being hit. At this moment, the system warns that the durability of the MC's sword is at only 7%. Su Ming reflects that because of this, his weapon's damage has dropped drastically, and that the boss's heavy armor attribute is truly a problem. At this moment, the knight notices something and quickly advances toward a part of the forest. He looks around until he looks up and sees the MC on top of a tree, wondering whether the boss is trying to recover the horse, since he knows that mounted speed is his advantage for victory. Having said that, he smiles and makes it clear that it is a pity because the boss's horse has already been taken by his group companions. Meanwhile, in another location, the boss's horse is resisting as it is being pulled. Ji Yao shouts, asking the horse to stop trying to resist, because they will not let it escape. Yan Zi asks Yun Chung to continue using magic to reduce the horse's movement speed. Ji Yao laughs, and emphasizes that the mission to hold the horse is very important, since it was Su Ming who entrusted this to them. She then quickly remembers him asking everyone to remember that if the plan worked and they knocked the boss off the horse, they were to leave the knight to him, and that the others would have a crucial mission, which was to hold the boss's horse and not let him mount again. Back to where the MC is, he launches his draw slash skill, and an explosion occurs due to the impact of the strike. However, the knight activates the same skill and launches the attack. Su Ming jumps backward to avoid being hit and comments that his opponent also knows how to use skills. Then, as he turns around, he notices the boss about to deliver an attack, but quickly uses the sword control skill and blocks the knight's attack at the last instant. While he continues controlling the sword, the system informs that his weapon's durability has 3% remaining. Even so, Su Ming continues pressing forward, and this time lands a kick on the knight. The MC keeps in mind that he cannot waste any more durability on his weapon, and, upon observing the boss with his eye of perception, concludes that the creature's heavy armor is about to break. Thus, taking advantage of the boss being down on the ground, he controls his sword with the intention of delivering a final attack. However, the knight wanted exactly that, and, seeing the MC coming at him, anticipates his movement, counterattacks, and after getting the opening he wanted, grabs the MC by the neck, and with the other arm, delivers a powerful attack to Su Ming. However, the boss ends up confused when he sees his opponent's body disappear out of nowhere. Su Ming appears from within the forest, saying that this move is truly effective against both players and monsters, because it always works. Having said that, he activates his set and emphasizes that he likes it very much, and while the boss turns to charge at him, Su Ming uses sword control and lands a direct hit on the knight. Seeing that the heavy armor has finally been broken, he leaps toward him, but at that same moment, the system warns that the MC's weapon durability has been depleted and the sword breaks. However, Su Ming does not care at all, since he is using his other skill, execution. 1 hour later, at Xuanjing Academy, in the school administration communications room, it is announced that Director Wang has finally arrived. The old man comments that it seems the directors have already been talking in the communications room for quite some time. One of them replies that everyone else also did not arrive long ago, and that it was only Director Wang who arrived last. He then asks whether no student from Xuanjing Academy has managed to challenge the dungeon boss yet, because, according to annual custom, the completion results start coming out after 3 in the afternoon. But he points out to the director that since his academy finishes last every year, he thinks it is no problem for him to be late and not be in a hurry to report. Wang says that he was not late because of the dungeon. Having said that, he explains that it was because he received some real-time feedback data from inside the dungeon, and that there are players from outside his school secretly entering the Xuanjing Academy's novice dungeon, and that, although the real identities of these outside players are still unclear, he wants to know whether they might be students from their 3 academies going to cause trouble. He also asks Director Z whether it could not have been his doing, since the data of the victimized students show that they were eliminated by a student using blade skills, and he heard that the genius student of Wuyang Academy, Li Chenguang, is precisely a master of bladed weapons. Ji shouts, telling Wang not to speak nonsense without proof, and makes it clear that the student Chen Guang from their academy is, at this very moment, challenging the final boss of their novice dungeon as the main attacking force, and that he predicts he will clear the dungeon in less than half an hour. The director of Dongling Academy informs that they already have 3 groups of students with sufficient level challenging the boss. The director of Nangang Academy also says that they are already in the phase of intense battle against the boss, and that, if everything goes well, the news of completion will arrive soon. Director Wang, on the other hand, thinks that apparently the other academies are doing well in the boss challenge, and that, at the moment, it is just a race against time, because if his academy does not achieve the first completion that year, he believes they will only have 2 token slots for the Celestial Tower Council, which would be the lowest number in history. Next, he thinks of Zhang Tang and reflects that currently, the player closest to managing to eliminate the boss is him, and that, at the moment, he can only place his hopes in his strength. 15 minutes later, inside the dungeon, Zhang Tang is shouting, ordering everyone in his group to advance and use all their abilities without holding anything back, because they need to eliminate the final boss. The Raging Tide Forest King, Shinba, level 15, notices an opening and, with a single attack, manages to eliminate several players from Zhang Tang's group. As the creature continues attacking the others, one of the group members shouts to warn Zhang Tang that he thinks they are no match for the boss, because everyone's level is still not enough to challenge him successfully. The blonde youngster facing the enormous creature thinks otherwise, because they have already made it that far. Then he reflects that the novice dungeon completion rewards must be his. Next, Zhang Tang remembers the messages he exchanged with Xiaoman, in which she was asking for help because the MC had hurt her and wanted the blonde guy to avenge her. So Zhang Tang thinks that he will take the final reward after defeating the boss and take revenge for Xiaoman, and, facing the enormous creature, he gets ready for battle, but soon becomes confused when he sees the boss disappearing right before his eyes. Then he wonders what is happening until a system message arrives for all the dungeon competitors, and he cannot believe what he is seeing, since the dungeon notification states that the hidden boss has been defeated, and that all players should soon prepare to return from the dungeon. A few minutes earlier, Su Ming was happy to see that he had defeated the knight, and at the same time, the group he had joined had just arrived at the location and were soon surprised because they saw that the MC managed to solo the hidden boss. After that, in the information room, the directors were commenting that the result had just come out, and each one soon began cheering for their university. But Director Wang, upon looking at the big screen, becomes very surprised because he sees that it was his university that won. The directors go crazy, saying that this is an exaggeration, because they did not know that there was a hidden boss in the novice dungeon. Meanwhile, inside the novice dungeon, Ji Yao is very excited with her friend, saying that he really is amazing. Su Ming comments that, with the defeat of the knight, everyone managed to level up 2 levels at once, and now he is level 16. Next, he calls everyone and asks them to take advantage of the fact that the dungeon exit portal has not opened yet to divide the rewards for eliminating the hidden boss. Yanzei makes it clear that he does not want a reward, because just leveling up already leaves him very satisfied. Yun Qing agrees with Yanzei and thanks the MC for saving her life. The archer laughs and emphasizes that, from being saved from Li Chenguang's blade to uncovering the secret of the hidden boss and finally soloing the boss, he really did not have the strength to help with anything, so he thinks it would be very awkward to divide the spoils. However, he ends up being surprised when he sees a system message informing him that he obtained the Putrid Spirit Suppression Bow, but that it has a level restriction and can only be equipped upon reaching level 20 In addition to having the requirement of the ranger class with bow proficiency, the item has the spiritual suppression affix, which consumes spiritual power to cause all arrows fired by the bow to produce random enchantment effects. Yunqing also gains loot. She obtained the Heart Soul Necklace, which can increase the storage limit of soul power as well as absorption efficiency. Jiyao obtained the Blood Armor Undead Summoning Scroll, which has the effect that upon learning this skill, she can summon the hidden boss, the Blood Armor Undead Knight, and the attributes and level of the summon depend on the attributes and level of the summoner. Su Ming comments to everyone that, as they can see, the spoils left by the hidden boss are all related to exclusive rewards for their classes. Having said that, he thinks about what everyone did and explains that this means it is not only he who recognizes everyone as part of the success in eliminating the hidden boss, since apparently the novice dungeon also recognizes them, in addition to knowing that if it were not for them, he would never have completed the challenge. At that moment, a voice congratulates the challengers for clearing the Furious Tide Flowers Rank F dungeon and informs them that the time spent inside the dungeon was 8 hours and 20 minutes. Su Ming comments that it seems time is up and that it is time to leave, and soon a portal appears behind the MC's group. Su Ming, while walking straight toward the portal, comments that the contribution rewards of each player for the dungeon challenge will be settled in the real world after everyone leaves, and that an exit portal will appear beside each living player, so he emphasizes that everyone should be proud. Having said that, he looks back and emphasizes that, since everyone there is still alive, the challenge was a great success. At 4:30 in the afternoon, the system announces that it is confirmed that all players have exited the dungeon. Some cry for having lost friends, others for brothers, and even lovers. Some comment that 20 entered and only 5 returned. Yanze, seeing this, comments that he was the only one to return alive from his team, just like Ji Yao and Yun Qing. Su Ming makes it clear to everyone that since the Day of Awakening, the world has become like this. A world dominated by the awakened, following the law of the jungle, where the winner takes all. And while he comments that only by constantly challenging oneself to become stronger can one survive under the rules of the world they live in, several players cry and lament their losses. Su Ming continues by saying that some are sad for losing comrades, relatives, and lovers, while others are incredibly happy for gaining power and money as rewards. So he thinks this world is absurd and crazy. At that moment, Director Wang appears on the big screen and congratulates everyone who survived and successfully challenged the novice dungeon, saying that for them, this was the first challenge after awakening and stepping into the world of the awakened, and that it is also the last lesson the Academy will give them as graduates. Having said that, he asks everyone to remember that being awakened does not represent only power, money, and honor, but also represents responsibility, love, and peace, and that those who lost loved ones should remember this sadness and pain, and those who obtained victory should remember this responsibility and purpose. Jiyao calls Su Ming and wants to know what he is feeling, whether he is sad or happy with the rules of the world they live in. He replies that the students who were eliminated inside the dungeon will be resurrected. The director comments that he has one more thing to say, and emphasizes that, to properly complete the lesson, he will reveal the true meaning of the novice dungeon, in which lost classmates, relatives, and lovers will be resurrected in 30 minutes and return from the dungeon to their side. Everyone is left unable to believe this revelation, but Jiyao, very surprised, looks at Su Ming and wonders how he knew all of this. Shortly after, the dungeon statistics were completed and entered the reward settlement phase. The player, Li Guangran, eliminated 3 frenzied rabbits and 1 reverse feather chicken, totaling 4 monsters eliminated, and her total contribution value in the dungeon was 0.03, and she obtained 16 advent coins. The player Song Jue eliminated 1 sharp-clawed cat and had 0.06 total contribution value in the dungeon and obtained 22 advent coins. And after settling the rewards of some players, it was now the MC's turn. He eliminated 113 gray-backed wolves, 1 mutant monkey, 24 minor goblins, 1 elite goblin, 87 spiny-toothed beasts, 13 elite spiny-toothed beasts, and 1 hidden boss. In addition to completing the primary class change, crossing the no damage area of the Red Rock Cave, and obtaining the Dungeon First Blood title. Therefore, his final evaluation is rank S. He also obtained the Rookie King title, which has the effect of increasing all attributes by an additional 15 points and increasing skill proficiency gained by an additional 10%, totaling 91% contribution in the dungeon. In the information room, Director Wang is looking at the MC's settlement and comments to someone that he is late. It is Su Ming. The director comments that he is first place in the school and city rankings in the novice dungeon. The MC comments that he slept too much and ended up being late. Next, the system shows the level ranking of the Xuanjing City Novice Dungeon, in which first place is Su Ming at level 16, second are Zhang Tang and Yanzhe at level 12, third place Yun Qing at level 11, and fourth, Ji Yao at level 10. Su Ming comments that since the novice dungeon is over, that means his school life has ended, but he thinks that he no longer needs to be discreet, since he believes he will have no problem modifying his information. After all, in the future, the difference between him and those classmates will be tens of thousands of kilometers, until he notices something strange, and, seeing the director with shining eyes hugging his leg, he wants to know how long the director is going to keep hugging him. The old man starts crying with happiness and thanks the MC, then comments that although he does not know what method he used, he finally helped Xuanjing Academy, which had been at the bottom for so many years, to vent its frustrations and regain its pride. Having said that, he comments that, as the MC knows, after the completion information came out, Old C from Wuyang Academy was left speechless, and that before, at every school meeting, he loved to mock others. So he really wants to see if he will dare to talk nonsense in the future. Su Ming wants to know what place that guy named Li Chenguang from Wuyang Academy ended up in. The director says that the manic blade genius that everyone bet on ended up only in third place in the ranking of all academies. Su Ming is pleased to hear this, but the old man continues saying that he heard around that it was because Li Chenguang suffered serious injuries in an accident in the middle of the dungeon, which delayed the time to eliminate the boss. However, he wants to know how Su Ming managed to eliminate the hidden boss, because even with a 10-star talent, he knows that Su Ming is just a sword controller, a class that is weak in the early stages, since from what he knows about him, Su Ming is not from an influential noble family and likely does not have enough money to buy divine equipment. Then he emphasizes that he has never seen a student as incredible in all his long years as a director, since he knows that it cannot be the merit of those extra items he gave him after awakening, because those things only serve to slightly increase combat power. The MC laughs and replies that it was just luck, because he was lucky and obtained many very useful skills and items. The director agrees and emphasizes that there are so many incredible treasures in the novice dungeon. Su Ming says that he also found a group of good teammates, and that without their help, he thinks he also would not have eliminated the hidden boss. But he thinks that he cannot tell the director that he reincarnated. Wang comments that it seems Su Ming is not only an exceptional awakened, since he also thinks that he is an incredible leader. However, he informs him that the other students came earlier to collect the top 5 rewards, and that the student, Ji Yao, would not stop praising him for teaming up with him and seeing how incredible he is. Su Ming comments that she sent a message earlier to go together, but he ended up refusing, since he had in mind that he knew that girl would praise him a lot, making him embarrassed, since she always liked to praise others like that. At that moment, the director throws the Heavenly Tower Council token to the MC and asks him to keep it. Su Ming looks at the token in his hand, and the director comments that thanks to his performance in taking first place, the vice mayor, who originally looked down on Xuanjing Academy, had to take tokens from other academies and give them to theirs, and that because of this, his academy this year obtained 5 token slots, which were given to him, Ji Yao, Yanzhe, Yun Qing, and Zhang Tang. In addition, it is also time to explain the importance of the Heavenly Tower Council token. The MC calls the director and comments that he does not need to explain, because he knows very well what it is, since the Heavenly Tower Council is the place that many newly awakened dream of, and that generally, after a student challenges the novice dungeon, he graduates from the academy and officially enters the world of the awakened. Therefore, he knows that most people can only accept beginner-level dungeon training in the following days, challenging step by step and playing it safe, but the risk of improvement is high, and the speed is slower. However, having the qualification of the Heavenly Tower Council is something different, since those who possess the Heavenly Tower Council token have a much faster training channel, and although the challenges inside are varied, the enhancement rewards are many bane and fast. Su-ming knows that in his past life, it was because he did not obtain this Heavenly Tower Council qualification early on, and this prevented him from gaining an advantage over the majority of players from the start, and the resources obtained after being divided were not sufficient. But he knows that in this life it is different because he will seize every opportunity and prepare for the future. The director congratulates the MC and informs him that he has officially graduated as an awakened of Xuanjing Academy. Having said that, he emphasizes that future challenges will not allow restarts in case of failure, like in the novice dungeon, since the challenges they will face later will have only one chance and will be bets with their own lives. Su-ming listens attentively to every word of the director, who comments that he hopes the MC, a hidden genius, can achieve a great future and contribute to the world. Su-ming gives a slight smile, takes the director's hand, and thanks him. Meanwhile, in the noble area of Xuanjing City, in a huge mansion, a door bursts open and a man starts shouting for Yunqing. The old man goes to her, hugs her, and says that it is very good to see that she returned safely from the novice dungeon, and that she even took third place in the academy, and that, judging by it, the helpers Jiang Lan arranged were quite capable. She says that unfortunately the credit this time was not theirs, since it was an awakened student named Su-ming who helped Yunqing. The old man is surprised and immediately wants to know more. Yunqing tells her father that the mercenaries her sister hired fell into a monster trap due to some accidents, and that she also almost failed in the dungeon. However, she emphasizes that fortunately the student Su-ming appeared and saved her, and that he not only saved her, but also gave excellent skill books and equipment, in addition to taking her to level up and clear the dungeon. Jiang Lan explains that she looked for Su-ming right at the beginning to take Yunqing, but there was a conflict at the time and he refused, even when offered a lot of money, and as she recalls that day, she emphasizes that she did not expect her sister and him to have such a strong fate that they would meet in the dungeon, and because of that, she thinks they really need to thank him this time. Yunqing's father comments that his daughters seem to approve greatly of this Su-ming, and that, judging by it, they will need to find time to properly thank him, and that, as they said, being such an incredible awakened, he also wants to meet him, so he asks Jiang Lan to check his contact. Next, he makes it clear that to celebrate Yunqing's successful completion of the dungeon, he decided to hire the best famous chef to cook for everyone that night until he hears his phone ringing, and upon answering it, informs that he is very busy at the moment and that it does not matter whether the meeting is urgent or not. However, he becomes very surprised by what he just heard, and as he goes to a more private place, asks the person to clearly repeat what he just said. The man informs the president that they discovered that over the last 2 days someone sent assassins and eliminated many of them, and the old man wants to know if he knows who is behind it. The man says it is the Zhang family, which immediately leaves the old man perplexed upon hearing it. 2 days later, Ji Yao is shouting over the phone, saying that everything is scheduled and that they will depart together that day for the world of the Heavenly Tower, and emphasizes that this time he cannot act alone again. Su-ming replies that he understands, because over the last 2 days, he has already prepared everything he needed and that he will meet up with them soon. After hanging up the call, the MC starts thinking about the Heavenly Tower Council, and soon remembers Director Wang saying that to go to the Heavenly Tower Council, he would only need to use the token, which serves to summon the portal to open the destination, and that this portal can only be accessed by those who obtain the qualification of the Heavenly Tower Council token. Therefore, the MC takes the token in his hand and raises it to activate it, and the system announces that the qualified individual has been identified. Then, an intense glow begins to appear, and a portal opens before the MC, who becomes excited, thinking that he will dive headfirst into the new challenge of the Heavenly Tower Council. Already at the Heavenly Tower Council Tower, Su-ming slowly passes through the portal, and, as soon as he fully passes through it, he finds himself before the enormous 100-story tower, the territory of the Heavenly Tower Council. Su-ming looks at her and thinks that, in his past life, he only had the chance to come there much later, purely by coincidence. And as he looks around, he reflects that apparently many challengers from all over the country who obtained the tokens are still being continuously teleported there. So he concludes that being able to challenge that place once again will be quite exciting. After that, he arrives at a door and raises his token to scan it, and it does not take long before he is successfully identified and a door opens in front of him. He is soon surprised since he sees many people there and a system notice asking the challengers to wait for the start of the ceremony in the first floor hall. Su-ming actually wants to know why the lobby there is different from his past life, and after taking a good look around, he concludes that in this life the place is much larger than before. At that moment, Ji Yao and the others arrive calling Su-ming and saying that he finally arrived. The MC laughs and says that apparently they arrived much earlier. Ji Yao gets nervous and makes it clear that they have been there for a long time, so she wants to know why he never likes to act in a group. Su-ming asks whether he had not asked if all of them agreed to go there together, and comments that they have already become friends. Ji Yao replies that after going through the hardships of the novice dungeon, they are all good friends and battle companions. Having said that, she explains that from Xuanjing Academy, only they managed to qualify to go to the Celestial Tower Council, and therefore, they do not know what may happen from then on, and that acting together always ensures they take care of each other. Suddenly, a man appears shouting and charging straight at the MC. It is Zhang Tang who tries to throw a punch, but Su-ming easily dodges, and the blonde wants to know if they forgot that he is also part of this. The people around immediately start commenting that apparently someone is fighting. Ji Yao immediately shouts, asking what Zhang Tang's problem is. Furious, he replies that it is because of what the MC did to Xiaoman, and that at that moment he will settle the score with him, since during the novice dungeon, Su-ming hid very well, and he could not find him. He then comments that he really did not expect him to have also obtained the qualification for the Celestial Tower Council. Ji Yao, intrigued by the blonde mentioning the matter involving Xiaoman, asks what happened. Su-ming asks her to stay calm, and, to Zhang Tang, asks him to stop these troubles with Xiaoman, and emphasizes that they will not be able to resolve this matter there that day, because battles are not permitted where they are. Having said that, a voice announces that a conflict incident has been detected, and as a powerful lightning bolt strikes Zhang Tang, the voice makes it clear that no behavior that disrupts the order of the Celestial Tower Council is allowed. The blonde falls to the ground and tells the MC not to think that he will be able to escape. Su-ming laughs and emphasizes that there are people up above watching everything, and that after this at the Celestial Tower Council is over, they will settle things properly. A man from afar simply watches what is happening, while some people comment among themselves that although it seems there is no one receiving them, in reality they are being observed, and that truly, there at the Celestial Tower Council, things are not so simple. After that, the MC calls his friends to follow him. Ji Yao wants to know why he wants to go to another place, since the ceremony has not yet begun, and thinks they should wait for it to start and then read the challenge guide. Su-ming explains that they do not need to stand in line with the others reading guides, because that is for those who are going there for the first time, and that the secret lies in the seats. Ji Yao becomes intrigued and soon wants to know if it is also not his first time there. He asks his friends to observe carefully, because all they need to do is sit silently in the seat for a while, and she soon becomes surprised. The MC explains that the Celestial Tower Council's selection system will appear as soon as they sit down. The system welcomes the new challengers to the initiation challenge of the Sky Tower Association, the 100-layer tower challenge. Immediately, everyone sits down to also receive the system notification. Su-ming says that he is still climbing the tower and completing the stages, and that completing the 100-level tower challenge will be linked to the evaluation of his ranking after entering the game. Ji Yao wants to know if it will be a tower climbing competition. The MC replies that it is exactly that, and emphasizes that the higher the level challenged, the higher the final ranking obtained, but makes it clear that if everyone challenges the same floor, the ranking will be determined by the time the challenger took to climb the tower and by the difficulty of the challenge. Ji Yao comments that, in the end, the climbing time is also a factor to be considered. Su-ming comments that she is right and that they might be one step ahead of the others, since these ceremonies are used by the Sky Tower Association to test the participants' observation and adaptation skills. So he thinks what they want to see is the challenger's ability to observe the environment, find solutions, and take the initiative. Having said that, he asks whether the three of them want to join him to climb the tower like in the novice dungeon. Yunqing replies yes, since she thinks it is much safer to follow him, especially because the Celestial Tower Association token has restrictions. And even if her family wanted to use money to find good helpers, it would not be of much help. Yanze calls the MC and comments that this time he chooses not to follow him. Yunqing is surprised and immediately wants to know why. He replies that eliminating the hidden boss in the novice dungeon was basically all Su Ming's main effort, and that they were just taking advantage of the situation, yet they still leveled up a lot, and therefore he thinks they relied too much on the MC's power. In addition, with his strength, the MC definitely has bigger goals for challenges, and he does not want to hold him back, but he also wants to rely on his own strength to train and become stronger. Ji Yao emphasizes that Yanze is right and that, in fact, they also need a real test, because to ensure the success rate of the challenge, the three of them will team up alone, excluding Su Ming, so she wants to know if Yunqing agrees. She feels a little reluctant about it because she wanted to go together with the MC, but soon fills herself with confidence and agrees with Ji Yao, emphasizing that she is very motivated because she also wants to learn to become stronger by relying on her own abilities. Thus, after everything is settled, Su Ming chooses to challenge the tower climb alone, and Yanze, Ji Yao, and Yunqing challenge the tower climb as a team of 3 people. While they continue talking, the man from before keeps only paying attention to what is around. The man in question is Li Chenguang, who, when thinking about what happened in the novice dungeon, swears that his duel with the MC has not yet been decided. At that moment, the system informs the MC that the team options have been finalized and that the 100-layer tower challenge will begin. Su Ming comments to his friends that he will go first and that he will be waiting for their good results. The 3 ask the MC to go all out and emphasize that they will also do their best. It does not take long, and Su Ming is soon taken into the challenge. Upon arriving, he passes through the portal and already receives the system notification that he was the first player to enter the 100-layer tower challenge. He thinks that he is feeling a very familiar sensation until another system notification arrives, informing that the MC's first opponent will be the Furious One. A portal begins to take shape right before his eyes, and the creature starts to pass through the portal. But the MC becomes a little confused by the creature he is seeing, since in front of him there is a Qingyuan free-range chicken, and he wonders why the challenge he is in is different from his past life. Su Ming does not waste time and charges at the creature, grabbing its neck, and while holding the free-range chicken firmly, he really wants to know how a monster on the first floor can be a chicken, since he remembers that in his previous life, when he challenged the same place, the monster he encountered on the first floor was a level 5 monster called the Purple-Furred Evil Tiger. But at the moment, the challenge is completely different from his past life, so he wonders whether the 100-layer tower is mocking him as a novice. However, he realizes that the chicken's level is unknown, and perhaps thinks it is better to eliminate it right away. But the creature becomes furious, leaps into the air, and lands a powerful kick on the MC, who is violently thrown backward. He becomes irritated at being caught off guard and for underestimating his opponent, so he grows serious and carefully observes the free-range chicken in front of him, which in turn charges straight at the MC with full force. After some time in the Celestial Tower Hall, it is announced that the opening ceremony of that year's 100-layer tower challenge for novices has ended, and that shortly the explanation of the teleportation challenge to the 100-layer tower will begin. However, one of the players becomes intrigued by something he is seeing and soon wants to know why a ranking of challenge levels has already appeared on the leaderboard. Another person wants to know if someone is really already rushing through the tower. Soon after, everyone sees that first place belongs to that 10-star genius from Wuyang City, and it does not take long for a notification to arrive that Li Chenguang has completed the second floor, and everyone comments that it can only be the Blade Maniac. Meanwhile, the MC is still fighting the free-range chicken, which in no way stops advancing towards Su Ming, who is constantly forced to retreat to avoid being hit head-on by the creature. While Su Ming activates his stealth step, he reflects that the attack speed of this skill is as fast as a bullet, so he charges straight at the chicken and strikes, but the creature manages to dodge once again. Then, the MC reflects that the power of his explosion is also very strong. However, the country chicken gains momentum, jumps into the air, and activates its Coup Fury skill. The creature increases its speed incredibly and moves from side to side until it lands a direct hit on the MC, who in turn thinks that the creature's attack is far too violent and that his current active skills, loot slash and sword control, are not working very well in the situation he is in. And, while trying once again to hit the chicken, he thinks that he needs to find an opening, because if he keeps dragging this out, it will only take longer. Thus, he jumps back and reflects that the time advantage he gained by entering the tower first will simply disappear. Then, he concludes that it is time to test the new skill he obtained after eliminating the hidden boss in the beginner dungeon. At that moment, the chicken is surprised, as it sees the MC charging at full speed, yet it still manages to dodge the lethal attack. Then, the creature retreats, but Su-Ming smiles and realizes that this is exactly the moment when the chicken lands on the ground, and an energy begins to react beneath the creature, and the MC activates his Sword Tomb skill, where a giant sword sinks into the tomb, falling to suppress evil. Its effect is to summon a giant sword technique that erupts from the ground at the designated target, causing massive damage. Su-Ming waits for the dust to settle and wonders if it worked. However, when he looks up, he sees the country chicken completely unharmed. He then becomes nervous, thinking that apparently this will never end, since he had thought that the strength of this chicken seemed ordinary, and that it did not look at all like an opponent one would encounter on the very first floor, until he gets an idea and questions whether his opponent is not just an ordinary chicken. At that moment, the creature jumps into the air and rushes at the MC, who in turn plants his sword into the ground and activates his chicken paralyze technique, causing it to stop midair. Su-Ming smiles and thinks that it is exactly as he imagined, since, in the end, his opponent was nothing more than a common little chicken. Then, he takes advantage of the opportunity and delivers the final blow to the creature. The skill that the MC used is also known as tonic immobility of the chicken, which is an instinctive defensive behavior where the chicken plays dead in response to stress. When the chicken is forced to stay on its back and its head is fixed in a restricted position, such as making it stare at a straight line, its balance and touch receptors send an inescapable danger signal to the brain, which temporarily inhibits motor nerves, leaving the chicken completely rigid and immobile. In this state, the chicken remains conscious, but its heartbeat and breathing slow down, managing to deceive predators that only attack living prey to gain a chance to escape. Thus, the system congratulates the MC and informs that the first floor challenge has been successfully completed, and as soon as a portal opens, Su-Ming walks toward it and thinks that the chicken had a strength far beyond what the first floor should have. Then he concludes that what was being tested was not strength, but intelligence, and that, apparently, the 100-floor tower of this reincarnation is quite interesting. And, upon checking the tower ranking, he sees that first place is held by Li Chenguang and thinks that, apparently, other challengers have also begun climbing the tower, and that the time advantage he had is already gone. But he smiles and reflects that this only served to ignite his fighting spirit even more. And, in this race to climb the tower floors, first place will certainly be his. Meanwhile, the participants are informed that all the rules have been explained, but lastly, what remains is the registration method for the 100-floor tower challenge, where, from the moment they entered the place, the seats on both sides were autonomous registration points for the challengers. With that said, the challengers are asked to sit in their respective challenge seats. Everyone gets nervous and rushes over, commenting that they did not know it would be something this simple and that, apparently, this was a trap, since they had been listening to the long and boring opening ceremony. While some begin looking for a place to sit and say that the competition is a race against time, others comment that it was obvious from the start that it was possible to enter the tower through the seats, and that it is no wonder that the blade maniac Li Chenguang is already on the ranking. At that moment, the big screen shows that Li Chenguang has already completed the 6th floor, which makes the challengers even more excited. Then a guy is surprised to see that the ranking has just updated with new positions. In 3rd place, the team led by Ji Yao has just completed the 4th floor. However, he becomes even more surprised with another update on the board. as another person is also in third place, with the name God of Massacre, but with the ID of being the first to enter the tower. A few moments earlier, Su Ming was receiving a notification about his reward for successfully completing the first floor, where the reward was a customized title. And upon passing through the portal to the second floor, he wondered what the purpose of this title he received as a reward was, since he clearly remembered that, in his past life, after eliminating the guardian monster of the first floor, the reward he received was a small wooden chest, and inside was an almost useless healing potion, and not any title. The system asked the MC to input the desired title, and he thought that many things had changed in his regression, and wondered if it was because he had been reborn, and, as he had no other alternative, the only option was to accept and move forward. And, after thinking of a cool title, he knew that he could use his class from his past life as a title. So he chose the title God of Massacre. Thus, the system informed that the challenger whose ID was 01 Su Ming in the display of the 100-floor tower challenge had been changed to God of Massacre. However, this left the MC even more intrigued, as the title replaced the name on the panel. At that moment, Su Ming receives another system notification, but this time informing that the Guardian boss has appeared. The MC takes his sword and thinks that this is exactly what he wanted. A level 3 flying bat appears, but Su Ming, not wanting to waste any more time, completely defeats the creature. And the ranking is updated, informing that third place occupied by God of Massacre has completed the second floor. The participants are surprised as only 1 minute had passed and this so-called God of Massacre has already cleared the second floor. A few minutes later, the MC eliminates the level 5 troll hunter on the third floor, and the system informs that he has successfully completed the third floor. Then, once again, without much difficulty, Su Ming eliminates the level 6 three-eyed herbivorous monster on the fourth floor. The people who are still outside the tower challenge cannot believe the incredible speed at which the guy named God of Massacre is climbing the tower floors, as in less than 10 minutes he climbed 2 floors at once and is catching up to second place. However, they know that even so, Li Chenguang, who is in first place, does not want to fall behind, as he has already reached the 8th floor. Meanwhile, the MC, upon passing through the portal, sees that the Blade Maniac has already cleared the 8th floor. Then, he gets excited, thinking that this race is becoming more interesting than he had imagined. And, thinking about the time he lost on the first floor, he believes that Li Chenguang must consider that as an advantage he gave him, but that now he will advance with full force. At that moment, the level 7 three-headed dog of the 5th floor begins to appear, and without wanting much talk, Su Ming charges straight at the creature, saying that he will not even wait for it to come out of the portal. A few minutes later, Ji Yao's group has just eliminated another creature. She comments that it was close, but they still cleared another floor, and that, with her summons on the front line, Yansei can focus on total damage, and Yun Qing takes care of control and healing. With that said, she emphasizes that the team's coordination is getting better and better until she hears Yun Qing shouting, calling them to see something. She says that it is Su Ming, since in a very short time he climbed the tower ranking, but that the surprising part is not that, but rather that he has already reached second place after completing the 7th floor. Meanwhile, Li Chenguang is eliminating another creature and successfully completes the 9th floor. He smiles and thinks that the monsters on the 9th floor have started to be a bit more troublesome, and that apparently now it will begin to be a real challenge. But he knows it will still not be any problem, since he has in mind that following the rules, on the next floor, the 10th, whoever clears it first will receive an extra reward. And upon seeing that God of Massacre is in second place, he assumes that based on the ranking he saw, the guy with the title God of Massacre who climbs so fast can only be the sword controller Su Ming, although he does not understand why, being the first to enter, he delayed so much on the first floor. But he knows that even if he is making up for lost time now, there is no way he can be faster. So he concludes that the extra reward of the 10th floor is already his, until, when he looks to the side, he is quite surprised as he sees that the MC has just completed the 9th floor as well. Meanwhile, Su Ming is waiting for the creature of the 10th floor to come out of the portal, and as soon as the creature emerges, the MC sees that it is a level 15 Furious Minotaur. Outside the tower, some people are wondering why more and more people are watching the ranking and whether they should not also be climbing the tower. Others comment that, for now, it does not matter to climb later, since, in any case, they will not be able to match the speed of the top-ranked challengers. Back where the MC is, he is toying with the creature and, after landing another blow, asks what is going on and whether the furious Minotaur can no longer endure. The huge creature drops to its knees with low HP, and the MC comments that his opponent only lasted 30 seconds. With that said, he grabs his sword and, while channeling his power into it, comments that the Minotaur's weakness also helped in his climb through the tower, and that it was a great contribution. Thus, he activates his sword strike skill and eliminates the creature once and for all. And soon, the system informs that the MC has successfully completed the 10th floor, and that, as he was the first challenger to complete the 10th floor of the Celestial Tower Council in this edition, he will receive an extra reward. Meanwhile, someone is slowly opening their eyes and hearing someone say that the pulse is normal. The nurse is surprised to see that the patient has finally woken up. Zhang Tang is startled when he realizes that he is in the infirmary, and the nurse explains that he fainted after being electrocuted for causing trouble in the 100th-floor tower. The blonde guy feels embarrassed when he sees that the nurse is very beautiful, but he knows he cannot think that because his heart belongs only to Xiaoman. But as soon as he thinks of her, he immediately remembers the MC. A few minutes later, after going to the ceremony hall and thinking that he will take revenge, he realizes that there is no one left in the hall, and that, apparently, all the challengers obtained the Celestial Tower Council tokens and have already begun climbing the tower. Then he becomes desperate, thinking that he has been completely left behind, in addition to knowing that his level will certainly no longer catch up to that damn Su Ming. Then he shouts, saying that he ended up being too impulsive and that he should not have been so reckless. And, remembering what happened before, he thinks that it is all the MC's fault, since he believes that he must have already known the rules there and that it was a trap he set up. But even so, he knows that he needs to find a way, since he is the young master of the Zhang family, until he thinks of something and, while grabbing his phone, thinks that even if his level does not reach that of the other challengers, it does not matter. But he cannot let the MC go unpunished, even if he has to use his family's power. Thus, he sends a message to a certain person. In the message, he is asking them to use his family's connections to eliminate someone. Zhang Tang laughs and thinks that it is the only way, and that he did not want to go this far, but it was Su Ming who forced him to do this. And, as he walks toward the seats, he thinks that the nurses had said that the tower system should start as soon as one sits in the seat. Then, he thinks that he wants to see how the ranking is, but that, for some reason, he cannot see Su Ming's position. However, second place has already cleared the 16th floor, but since it is Li Chenguang from Wuyang Academy, he knows that is not surprising, until he becomes confused by something he is seeing and soon wonders who the guy with the name God of Massacre in first place is, since that person has just completed the 18th floor. A few minutes later, inside the tower, the MC is fighting another creature. He strikes with his sword and retreats to avoid being caught by the creature's claws, which quickly advances toward the MC. Su Ming begins to feel concerned and thinks that climbing the tower up to this point really requires some effort with his current level, as he is on the 19th floor facing a level 20 amethyst crystal beast. Then he reflects that the mechanics of boss monsters are becoming increasingly complex, because the monster he is facing buries its body in the ground, leaving only the incredibly hard amethysts on its head exposed. After that, the creature attacks, continuously sending smaller monsters to the surface while its body remains buried. In addition, these annoying little monsters also have defenses hard as amethysts, and, while eliminating some of the small creatures, he knows that it will be impossible to pierce their defense easily with only the previous silver rank weapons. However, he thinks that things will not become difficult yet, since he has in mind that after defeating the furious Minotaur on the 10th floor, as a reward for having the best completion time, he obtained a gold rank weapon chest, and he immediately activated his all things sublimation skill and evolved the gold weapon chest into platinum. In this way, he managed to obtain the twin blades of the Blackstone Rift, which require level 18 to be used, and he also knows that originally it was a long sword, but it broke into two parts during a battle. Later, a blacksmith used a precious dragon scale as the core to forge and reunite it, bringing the sword back to its peak. The sword is incredibly sharp and capable of withstanding a powerful killing intent. The split blade was once a complete longsword, therefore, it can be classified as a sword-type weapon. However, when divided, it becomes a broken blade, being classified as a short sword or dagger. Its affixes include fire scale, since the center of the broken blade is embedded with a fire dragon scale, which provides a 200% fire attribute damage bonus to the dagger. Su-Ming has in mind that in long sword mode, it greatly increases the bonus cutting attack damage, but also sacrifices some attack speed, and, as the boss's small creatures approach, he concludes that it is not very practical for dealing with a large number of enemies. Thus, he activates the split blade attribute, where the blade divides into two, transforming into dual long swords wielded in both hands, gaining a 50% increase in attack speed, but having cutting damage reduced by 30%. And, as he prepares, he knows that although the attack power is reduced, with the bonus from his origin sword body talent, all his weapons receive bonuses. So, as the attack power of his weapon increases, he reflects that he can take advantage of both speed and attack at the same time. A few minutes later, on the 17th floor, Li Chenguang is fighting the floor boss and struggling. He retreats and becomes worried, as his HP is at half. And facing the level 18 giant treant, he knows that he has reached his limit, but he reflects that the weakness of the monster he is fighting is fire. However, he chose to go solo and does not have any fire skill to restrain the creature. At that moment, the giant treant launches its attack and sends Li Chenguang flying. While being thrown, he thinks that the worst part is that he did not receive any useful reward to improve his attributes when clearing the floors. Then he remembers when he was congratulated for completing the 10th floor, but the reward he obtained was a silver chest. Next, he thinks that this is due to the fact that he lost the tower race to the MC and had to settle for a common silver reward. But to make matters worse, the reward he received from the 10th floor was an accessory for a magic class, which has nothing to do with his own, until, while distracted in thought, he is directly hit by the boss of the 17th floor. Li Chenguang jumps back and thinks that he can no longer push himself, since, with his HP extremely low, he knows that if he continues like this, he will truly be eliminated there. Thus, he opens the system panel and is informed that the challenger with ID 02 has chosen to give up the 17th floor challenge, just like several others. Meanwhile, the MC continues fighting the small creatures of the amethyst crystal beast. Su-Ming laughs, and facing the crystal beast, comments that he finally managed to get close to it. Saying this, he activates his sword tomb skill, and as the creature is struck, he jumps up, commenting that the true body underground has finally been pierced and brought out. And, as soon as he finishes the boss, the system informs that the 19th floor has been successfully completed. A few minutes later, Su-Ming observes in the tower competition notifications that several teams and challengers have given up on floors below his. Then, he realizes that the blade maniac Li Chenguang has apparently also given up, but he thinks that this was already expected, especially because the difficulty of the 100-floor tower gradually increases after the 10th floor. But Li Chenguang, having managed to reach the 17th floor, is already something incredible, because he has in mind that, based on the experience of his past life, the 20th floor of the tower is a turning point, as the difficulty of the subsequent floors increases geometrically. In addition, he knows that, with his current status level, reaching the 19th floor is already almost his limit. But since he finally managed to reach level 20 with great effort, he knows that he will finally have the chance to use a certain nostalgic move in this reincarnation with the Sword God class. Later, on the 20th floor, Su-Ming is in a fierce battle and, while in the air, uses his sword control skill to attack the floor boss, who in turn prepares and then defends all of the MC's attack attempts. Su-Ming calls back his sword, grabs it, activates his stealth step, and at high speed begins to deliver several consecutive strikes against the boss. However, he realizes that it is defending all of his attacks with great ease. And, upon observing it more closely, he thinks that this was already expected from a level 25 Seal Knight, who in turn notices the MC distracted and quickly channels power into his sword and then throws it. Su-Ming is directly hit by the attack, and while trying to endure it, thinks that the power of the knight's skill is far too strong, and because of that, he cannot withstand the attack and is thrown far away. When he falls to the ground, he becomes worried, thinking that, with his current equipment and status attributes, it is impossible to block the knight's skill attack, since he has in mind that, on average, if he takes one hit, he loses a third of his HP, and because of that, he thinks he can only endure one more blow. And, upon observing him, he reflects that it is as he had imagined. Even having been reborn, he cannot overcome such a large level gap in the 100-floor tower of the Celestial Tower Council. However, he knows that this was already within his expectations. Thus, he stands up and activates the Shadow Sword set. Then he concludes that the reason he chose to continue climbing the tower was precisely to test that ability of his that could only be used at level 20, which, in his past life, was the ability he was most proud of. Su Ming channels his power and then unleashes his single slash of the God of Massacre, which rushes straight toward the Seal Knight. Meanwhile, Li Chengguang exits through the portal and hears several people commenting about the guy with the title God of Massacre and that he is still climbing the tower. Li Chengguang also hears people commenting that the God of Massacre is challenging the boss of the 20th floor on his very first time climbing the tower. The Blade Maniac thinks that for someone to truly be capable of challenging the 20th floor, it can only be the sword controller. Then someone approaches saying that Chengguang seems to have lost to this so-called God of Massacre, and that this is the first time, since childhood, that he has seen him lose to someone. Li Chengguang does not like hearing this at all. Meanwhile, in the fight of the MC against the Seal Knight, the skill he had cast was completely dissipated, and facing the boss with more than half of its health remaining, he knows he has no choice but to admit defeat, since not even the single strike of the God of Massacre managed to injure the knight. Therefore, he opens the system panel and decides to give up on the challenge of the 20th floor. Su Ming reflects that he accepts defeat, but soon becomes quite surprised upon hearing the knight say that he did not lose. That said, he emphasizes that the current level of the MC and his attributes are completely insufficient and that, because of this, he cannot unleash the true power of his skill. Su Ming watches the Seal Knight and questions whether he is really hearing him speak, who in turn comments that he will await his return to challenge him in the future. After that, the MC returns and thinks that the place must be the resting area after challenging the 100-floor tower. And, while walking around the place, several people comment that the ranking table has updated again and that, apparently, the so-called God of Massacre also failed the challenge, but that just reaching the 19th floor is already incredible, since the Blade Maniac, Li Chengguang, only managed to reach the 16th floor. Some people go to where the portals are opening to find out who this guy is with the title of God of Massacre. The MC does not care about the others and thinks that having this title as a reward on the first floor was not bad at all, since his total concealment skill can only modify his information in the dungeon and does not work well in the 100-floor tower. And since no one knows his score, he will not attract much attention, since avoiding trouble is always very good. Then, he sees on the ranking table that Ji Yao and the others are still challenging the 14th floor, and that, apparently, their teamwork coordination has improved a lot, because he has in mind that by playing safely and consistently, they can still challenge higher levels. Therefore, he reflects that, since that is the case, he will move first to challenge the next stage, since with his level 20, his second attribute increase mission for class change has already appeared, and, for convenience, he will choose to complete a subjugation mission located near the destination of the second class change mission. But he ends up intrigued when he sees that, at his current level, there are only rank F, E, and D subjugation missions to choose from, and after checking the locations, he realizes he can only choose one region. Thus, the system informs him that he has selected the subjugation mission of Area D17, in which he will need to hunt a Python King in the wild forest of the Nanli district. The reward will be 10,000 Adventi coins and a random platinum-level skill scroll. Next, the MC passes his Sky Tower assembly token through the machine and is informed that he has received permission to enter and leave the 100-floor tower area at any time, and that he now also has permission to enter the Illusory Realm area. Su Ming wastes no time and immediately enters the Illusory Realm area, and as soon as he looks around, he thinks that it is precisely an illusory area that can connect to the Sky Tower assembly area, but that it has a different appearance from the real world. In addition, he knows that before the Day of Awakening arrived, the real world was originally a place where humanity lived. But with the approach of the Day of Awakening, several inexplicable anomalies, dungeons, demons, and monsters appeared one after another in the original real world, and humanity began to merge and enter the world of awakened professions. Therefore, through the sacrifices and efforts of their predecessors, order was restored in the chaotic real world that had been destroyed after the arrival of the Day of Awakening, and thus the illusory realm area was born, isolated from the real world where humans mainly live and designated as a habitable space for demons and aberrant beasts. And this achieved the relatively peaceful global atmosphere that everyone knows nowadays. So, Su Ming knows that the trials of the 100-floor tower are exactly the threshold that opens the illusory realm area for novice challengers to venture into. In addition, he has heard that the peak of the 100-floor tower buries all the truths of the day the world descended, and because of that, he thinks it is a pity that he was not able to accomplish this in his past life, but that this time, he was lucky enough to start over to achieve the goals he failed to reach before. At that moment, a system notification arrives for the MC informing him that a portal has been opened for him, but that he needs to select the destination area within the illusory realm area. Su Ming refuses, and thinks that he first needs to make a trip back to the real world. Thus, the system informs that it has received the instructions and will open a portal to the real world. Next, the MC receives 10,000 Advent coins for having challenged the 20th floor, then thinks that it is enough to complete the order he pre-ordered 2 days ago. While passing through the portal, he thinks that in this life, belonging to his profession as the god of the sword, he needs the order for his first advanced weapon. After passing through the portal, he arrives in the real world at the weapon trading center and soon thinks that he will be there more than once. Then, he remembers the times he had been there and the silver weapons he previously obtained by opening stones, and that the bloodthirsty Zhuan steel sword is already insufficient to deal with the difficulty of the subsequent challenge. But he knows that its attached weapon effects provide great support, and because of that, he thinks he does not want to give it up easily, since the red blood effect, after locking onto a target, allows the sword to absorb the target's blood through attacks or contact, healing the wielder's injuries, and that bloodthirst, after eliminating a monster with the sword, can briefly increase the wielder's overall attributes by 5 points for a duration of 30 seconds. Then, he remembers that 2 days ago he was talking with Jiao, and she was saying that she had scheduled a meeting with Yanzi and Yunqing, and that they would use the rewards obtained in the novice dungeon to buy equipment for the next challenge of the 100-floor tower, so she wanted to know if he was willing to accompany them. Su Ming thanked his friend and said that he would not go, as he also needed to make some preparations for his weapons and equipment that day. Jiao also mentioned that they would go exactly to the skyscraper of the weapon trading center to buy. However, the MC said that he would not go there and that he was really busy doing some things on the computer. Jiao asked if he wanted anything from there, as she could bring it without any problem, until the MC managed to place the pre-sale order, which required paying 10,000 Advent coins in advance. Thus, after managing to do that, Su Ming thanked his friend and made it clear that the place where he would buy and prepare was in a different direction from theirs. After thinking about this, Su Ming goes to an elevator and then to floor A2 in basement 2B in warehouse 9S. A woman, upon seeing the MC, comments that he is late. Then, she wants to know if he has already gathered the remaining balance. Su Ming remembers the 10,000 he earned on the 20th floor of the tower challenge, and that he received a system notification informing that he obtained the weapon replication enhancement device. Then he thinks that his talent of sublimation of all things can only be used on an item once, in addition to the fact that the enhancement result is still random. Thus, he takes the weapon replication enhancement device and thinks that if he wants to maintain the effects of the bloodthirsty Zhuan steel sword and still be able to enhance the weapon, he can only use the device. Then he sees that the usage effect increases the item's level and replicates it, maintaining the skill attributes of the original item, and that the base skill attributes will increase randomly as the item is enhanced. Su Ming decides to use the device, and the system informs that the bloodthirsty Zhuan steel sword has been successfully upgraded to the bloodthirsty Zhuan blade sword. The MC is surprised to see that it worked and thinks that now, at this stage, the only one who can create this enhancement device is the 8-star blacksmith in front of him, Nahura, who soon comments to the MC that she does not even know him, since she has been hiding there in the dilapidated underground warehouse, quietly researching forging. Then she wants to know how he obtained her contact information and how he knew that she would certainly succeed in creating such a weapon replication enhancement device, since the cost of the materials required for it amounts to more than 10,000 Advent coins, and that because of that, she admits she did not expect a student like him, newly awakened, to be willing to spend such a high amount. Then she asks if he really was not afraid that it would fail. Su Ming asks who said that they do not know each other, which leaves the blacksmith confused, wondering if her memory might be failing. The MC thinks that in his past life, the two of them did come to know each other, then laughs and says he was joking, but keeps in mind that in his previous life, Nahura was a very formidable weapon forger, and that although she only had an 8-star talent, her great passion and hard work in weapon forging eventually led to her future achievements. Then, he reflects that he collaborated with her many times, and she helped him forge his own unique weapons on several occasions, but that obviously, the financial cost he paid for those collaborations in his previous life was enormous. However, at the moment, he knows that 20,000 Advent coins are really a drop in the bucket, and that for this, he needs to prepare in advance, taking advantage of her at her moment of greatest poverty. Thus, Su Ming tells the blacksmith that he not only knows her contact information, but also knows that she is worried about not having funds for the next weapon she is researching and developing. Nahura is surprised and immediately asks how he knew that. The MC replies that he is willing to sponsor 10,000 Advent coins in advance, and that after completing quests and collecting rewards, he will continue increasing his investment in her. Then, he asks what she thinks. Nahura gets excited and asks if he is really serious. Su Ming replies that he is, but emphasizes that he has only one condition, which is that in the future, when he needs her to forge weapons for him, she will have to charge only 30% of the forging price. Nahura agrees and says she will have no problem. After that, a few hours later, in the illusory realm, in the wild area, a small creature is walking over fallen tree trunks until it gets startled upon hearing a noise. And, when it turns around, it notices a carnivorous plant about to devour it, and, with no way to escape, it gets caught by the plant. At that moment, a portal opens, and the MC passes through it, and, upon looking around, he thinks that it is as expected of the illusory realm, since the trees there are gigantic compared to those in the novice dungeon, in addition to being full of vegetation, and that it is even possible to feel a faint smell of blood in the air. Then, he opens the region map and sees that the location of his mission to subjugate the Python King is locked in the southern district of the wild area of the Evil River. The mission consists of having to hunt the third-class change Python King in the wild forest, as it has already devoured several members of the Celestial Tower Council and possesses a terrifying strength, and that its current level is around 25. The reward will be 10,000 Advent coins and a random platinum rank skill scroll. Thus, he thinks about the direction he needs to go, but the large trees are blocking everything, and it is difficult to see the situation, in addition to the fact that he has in mind that since the trees there are very tall, it is hard to jump over them like he did in the novice dungeon. However, he equips his sword and concludes that there is a way he can try. After all, he is not exactly a true sword controller, but he still has the ability to control them. Then he considers that if he can fly standing on the sword like authentic sword controllers do, it would be really cool. Thus, he places his foot on the sword and thinks that it does not hurt to try. Next, he activates his sword control ability, but as soon as he tries to take off flying on it, he loses his balance and falls face first onto the ground. Su Ming thinks that it is as he had imagined, since it seems that sword flight is an exclusive ability of sword controllers. Even so, he decides to test it another way and throws it into the air, and while holding onto it, he starts flying, being pulled by it. Then he reflects that he has understood it, since although he cannot fly by standing on the sword, if he holds it, and uses sword control aiming at a target and activates the ability several times in succession, it might work. The MC activates sword control and starts being pulled from tree to tree by his sword. Thus, he gets excited and thinks that he can simply fly this way, and while throwing the sword very high and being pulled by it, he manages to see the entire area from above. Su Ming smiles and reflects that the view from up there is very beautiful. Then, he controls the sword to head south to go straight to his mission. A few minutes later, in another area of the forest in the illusory realm, a portal opens and some people pass through it. One of them asks where they are. The Mohawk man says that this is the area of subjugation quest D17, and, while interacting with the system panel, says that most subjugation quests are done in teams, but that a certain guy took the quest without joining a group, and because of that, it was very easy to find the MC's name by searching for players without a group in the quest panel. The woman comments that he has the courage to take a subjugation quest alone. Another guy emphasizes that the MC is just a novice who does not know what death is, as he thinks they will not even need to hunt him, since sooner or later the MC will end up being eliminated in the subjugation quest. The Mohawk man comments that then they need to hurry so that does not happen, so they do not miss the chance to receive the reward for his head. Meanwhile, in the 100th-floor tower, Zhang Tang chooses to voluntarily give up on the challenge of the 13th floor, and, upon returning through the portal, he takes a deep breath and thinks that he had to stop, since from the beginning of the tower challenge, he fell behind many challengers, and at that moment could not find anyone to form a team and climb the tower, which led him to have a terrible result in his first climb, and that he has certainly already fallen behind in the evaluation of the 100th-floor tower. In addition, there are not many challengers left, and it seems that most have already gone to do the subjugation quest of the next stage. And, upon looking at the ranking table, he thinks that he did not see the MC's result appear there, and that he also did not see him in the ranking in the resting area. Thus, he wonders what is happening and whether the MC might have given up on the challenge, because if he does not know where he is, the people he arranged to eliminate him will not be able to do anything, until he is surprised upon hearing some people talking. Yanze comments to Jiao that it is a good thing they followed her commands, otherwise he thinks they would not have passed the 15th floor. She makes it clear that it was everyone's effort and emphasizes that if they had a better main tank in the group, she thinks they would have gone further. After all, her summons are still somewhat fragile. Yun Chung laughs and says that for them to have achieved the result they did without the help of the MC is already quite incredible. Zhang Tang hears this conversation from afar and thinks that he came from the same academy as them, and even so, their results were better than his. Yanzi comments that they took a bit too long climbing the tower and therefore need to quickly go pick up the quest for the next stage, but wants to know how the MC's progress is going, which surprises the blonde guy. Jiao says that she spoke with Su Ming and that he has already taken a subjugation quest and went to do it. Yun Qing asks if he is going to do the quest alone as well. Jiao takes a deep breath and says that apparently yes, and that he has always had that lone wolf personality since childhood. Yun Qing comments that then they just need to continue as the three of them, because they cannot fall too far behind Su Ming. Upon hearing about this, Zhang Tang takes out his phone and thinks that he found a lead, and that apparently the MC had the audacity to go alone, and that it must certainly be a very low-rank subjugation quest that he chose. Thus, he filters the targets who are doing subjugation quests alone. After that, later, in the area of subjugation quest D17 in the southern district, the MC has just arrived, and, upon observing the surroundings, he thinks that, apparently, the place there seems to have been destroyed recently, but that it must have been a few hours ago. Until as he approaches, he notices something, since he is seeing the bodies of the villagers, and, judging by the bodies, he thinks it was a village of beastmen. Then, he examines the bodies and sees a corrosive liquid on them, and concludes that it must be the cause of death. In addition, he is sensing a smell of rot, and that it is definitely snake venom. Then he knows that this proves his target is nearby, since the smell of blood is mixed with another very strong odor, and when he looks to the side, he thinks it is coming from the direction he is facing. Thus, he decides to go after it to check and ends up coming across a pile of foul-smelling feces. Su Ming immediately covers his nose and concludes that the smell is coming from that, and that it is no wonder it is so strong. But he knows that it confirms the target is getting closer and closer. But he wonders what the size of this python king must be, until he hears a noise coming from one of the trees to his left. Then, he activates his sword control ability, and while throwing it, shouts asking who or what is hiding behind the tree. Then, he becomes quite surprised, since a feline-type creature jumps out asking him not to come closer, as her claws are very sharp. Su-ming tries to understand what is happening, until he turns and thinks that it can only be a pet, which makes the creature furious, saying that she is not a pet. The creature in question is from the cat tribe, is level 3, and is of the assassin class, possessing 9 points in strength, 9 in constitution, 27 in agility, 9 in spirit, and 9 in luck. The talent is natural agility of the feline lineage, and the effect of the agility attribute is almost twice as great as that of normal classes. The skills are silent steps and claw strike. However, the MC decides to check for himself and soon activates his Eye of Perception skill. Then he discovers that her name is Leah, and that indeed her attributes and information are correct. Thus, he calls her and asks her to pick up something, which in turn frightens her, asking him not to come any closer. But she soon becomes surprised by what he threw. As soon as she picks it up, the MC tells her that what he gave her is a healing potion. Since she is very injured, Leah becomes suspicious, thinking about whether she should use it or not. But the MC asks her to stay calm, and makes it clear that he is not there to harm her village, especially since her village has already been destroyed, and that his target is precisely the giant snake that attacked them. Leah tries to warn the MC, saying that the gigantic snake is very dangerous. Su-ming comments that she does not need to worry, since that is his mission there. Leah says that she can find that python's nest. The MC asks if she is really serious, but Leah asks him to let her go along, and, as she starts crying, says that that monster devoured her entire family. After that, both begin to walk through the place, and the MC comments that, apparently, it is getting darker and darker as they go deeper into the forest, but that he still does not sense any movement, so he asks if she is sure the direction is correct. Leah says it is just ahead, but the MC comments that he cannot see anything. Leah points upward and asks him to look up. Su-ming looks up and sees a gigantic snake coiled around the tree, then thinks that it is much bigger than he imagined, in addition to the fact that one really cannot underestimate a rank D quest, and that, because of that, he will need to come up with a new plan to eliminate such a creature. At that moment, Leah hears a noise coming from the direction they came from, and immediately shouts warning the MC, since an attack is heading toward him. While Su-ming dodges, the archer who fired the arrow becomes nervous and asks how the MC noticed the attack from the distance they are at. The Mohawk man comments that since they have been discovered, it is better to finish off the MC face to face. Su-ming, in turn, shouts asking who is shooting arrows from behind. The group comes down from the tree where they were, and the Mohawk man comments that the MC is quite capable. Then he emphasizes that he did not imagine that just any level 20 awakened would be able to dodge their ambush, but makes it clear that the MC was lucky to dodge once, and will not have the same luck again. Su-ming equips his sword and prepares for the confrontation. The archer wastes no time, and immediately fires his arrow, just like the mage, who shouts telling everyone to attack at once to eliminate the MC in the blink of an eye. The Mohawk man prepares his huge sword and says they need to complete the wanted quest. And while the arrow and the fireball head toward the MC, the Mohawk man prepares his sword to attack. Su-ming dodges the arrows first, but the mage asks if he will also be able to dodge her magic. The MC waits for the fireball to get closer, and then, with his sword, tries to withstand the attack and ends up taking some damage, until he notices the warrior rushing toward him, and, when trying to block the attack, he is violently thrown into one of the trees. The Mohawk man laughs and asks if that is all the MC has to show. The archer comments that he cannot believe that guy hired them just to eliminate a kid. The mage says she was wondering what kind of tough guy would dare to challenge a rank D subjugation quest alone, but that in the end, apparently, he is just an ignorant novice who picked any mission. While Leah is hiding, the Mohawk man comments that they spent so much time trying to track the MC and that, because of that, he should consider what they are doing as a lesson before being eliminated. Su-ming, with less than half of his HP, asks if before being eliminated, they can say who sent them, because at least he will die knowing why. The warrior approaches the MC and says that for someone who is going to be eliminated, it costs nothing to tell. So he says it was the son of the Zhang family. That said, he prepares his attack and then lands a powerful slash directly on the MC. Leah feels sad seeing this, until she becomes confused upon hearing the MC's voice asking if, in the end, all of this was Zhang Tang's doing. And from the top of a tree, he makes it clear that it was exactly as he imagined, since the only one who would be this cruel could only be him. Everyone, upon seeing the MC unharmed, without any damage, at the top of the tree, starts wondering what the hell is going on, because he was supposed to be in pieces. Su Ming activates the Eye of Perception and says that what they eliminated was just a clone from his set skill. And while everyone wonders what kind of ability this is, and whether they were really fooled by such a cheap trick, the MC manages to see that the archer is level 23, the mage is level 25, and the warrior is level 27. Thus, he thinks that in the awakened world where the law of the jungle prevails, hunting one another is normal, but to protect the basic balance of survival of the awakened, laws and regulations were also created, since in fights between awakened, the difference cannot exceed 10 levels, and that if they break the rules, whoever violates them will be hunted worldwide. Then he knows that is why their level cannot exceed 30, and since the level 27 swordsman is the strongest in the group, he concludes that he will start with the archer, who has the lowest level. Then he jumps and quickly goes behind the archer and equips his sword. The swordsman shouts, warning his partner, but Su Ming places his sword on the archer's neck and tells him not to do anything foolish, since hitting vital points ignores the HP bar. The mage becomes worried and shouts, calling the MC despicable, who in turn, while making a slight cut on the archer's neck, emphasizes that the throat is one of those vital points. But for someone who shot arrows from behind and ambushed him first, it is obvious who the real despicable one among them is. The swordsman steps in front of the mage, calls Su Ming a brat, and asks if he thinks he knows how to take a hostage. Then he laughs and asks if he has ever eliminated someone before, since eliminating someone for the first time is quite horrible. Su Ming smiles, and without any mercy, eliminates the archer. Thus, he calls out to the swordsman and says that he is feeling great. The partners of the guy who had just been eliminated are completely shocked, unable to believe that the MC did what he did without even blinking. Su Ming walks up to them and comments that for them to be sent to eliminate him, their level also must not be above 30, since, in the awakened world, that level of theirs is not much different from a bunch of newly awakened rookies. Then, he wants to know if they really thought that taking a few bounty missions would turn them into professional assassins. After that, the MC gives a sinister laugh and says he has terrible news for them. The souls that died under his blade in his past life are countless. Leah, hearing this from afar, even gets a little worried, but the MC does not care at all and soon unleashes a terrifying attack on one of the assassins. The woman loses a lot of her health points and screams, feeling intense pain. While the Mohawk guy tries to take advantage of the MC being distracted, he comments that hands are not vital points, and that, because of that, it only reduced her HP a little, since, as a mage, even if her level is higher than his, her speed was not enough to dodge his attack. Having said that, he jumps back to dodge the heavy strike skill from the circular blade. Then he thinks that even though the swordsman is focused on strength, he is 7 levels above him, and his agility and speed attributes are already almost equal to his own. With that, Su Ming increases his speed with stealth step and moves behind the swordsman, then lands a direct hit on him. But he wants to know if the MC is only scratching his back with the attack he just made. Then, he tries to hit him once again with circular slash. While dodging the attacks, Su Ming thinks that the status difference caused by the level disadvantage drastically reduces the damage of his attack against the swordsman, since he has in mind that the rules of the awakened world are that life and death battles between awakened ones do not use the same mechanics as battles against monsters, and that, although they fundamentally depend on base HP, this is limited to the HP calculation used when ordinary body parts are hit. In addition, many years ago, when the Awakened appeared, they discovered that another method to quickly eliminate an opponent is to strike a vital point, where hitting an enemy's vital point grants a damage bonus. So, he knows there is a high probability of ignoring the HP calculation and achieving a one-hit kill. But when facing a higher level opponent, the probability of landing a one-hit kill on a vital point also decreases drastically. The Mohawk guy's partner keeps screaming in pain, and he tells her to stop screaming because after they claim the quest reward, he will find a high-level healer to fix her hand. Then, he wants to know if she can still fight. She answers that she cannot because it hurts too much and asks him to finish off the MC quickly. He, in turn, reflects that this is also the importance of level stats in the awakened world, since, right now, with a lower level, he is facing higher level opponents. So, he knows that if this drags on, it will turn into a war of attrition, until he is surprised after getting an idea in which he thinks he can try a way to eliminate them using the other's weapons. With that, he runs off. And the Mohawk guy gets nervous because he is from a heavy combat class and his speed cannot catch up to the MC's. Then, he wants to know if his partner can lock onto him with magic. She answers that she can and makes it clear that even without one of her hands, she will not take her eyes off him. Having said that, she activates her target locking skill and then launches the Deep Fate Ice Arrow toward the MC. He, in turn, activates sword control, launches the sword into a tree, and is pulled by it. With that, he manages to dodge the attack that was heading toward him. This leaves the girl unable to believe what she just saw. The Mohawk guy comments that the MC is a sword controller, so he wants to know what is strange about him being able to fly on a sword. In addition, he tells his partner to use a few more skills to try to stop him. Meanwhile, Leah is watching Su Ming move through the air with his sword and thinks that this is, in fact, quite incredible, until the MC stops at the top of a tree, looks back, and wonders if they are still following him. But, upon noticing another attack coming in his direction, he concludes that they really are chasing him. Then, he looks up and thinks that this is the perfect place to be. After that, he activates his Eye of Perception and sees a creature that is also there. A huge explosion happens, and the Mohawk guy wants to know if his partner hit the attack. She asks him to relax and says that her skill is guided magic. But, when they hear a very loud and strange noise, they want to know what the hell is happening. The Mohawk guy gets very scared when he sees what is falling from the top of the tree, because what is falling and heading toward them is the Python King, the target of the subjugation quest. The huge serpent falls to the ground, and because of the impact, sends the assassins flying away. This is the giant venomous python, the boss of the wild area. The creature is level 26, has 401 strength, 350 constitution, 157 agility, 10 spirit, and 10 luck. And it does not take long for the venomous python to lock onto the aggro target, which leaves the mage very worried, and she soon has to run away, since the creature is launching a corrosive venom attack. As for the MC, from afar, he thinks that his plan worked, because the mage's skill attacked and woke up the boss first. And, because of that, the python went after her. Besides, he is pleased because a single ultimate attack from the mage managed to take away 1/5 of the boss's life. At that moment, the Mohawk guy charges at the serpent with his heavy strike. Then, he unleashes Mighty Blade Fall, which makes the boss scream loudly. The swordsman does not stop attacking with his heavy slash, and then activates his sure kill and shouts, telling the snake to die already. Having said that, he also attacks with his suppression heavy strike. Su Ming continues just watching from afar and thinking that, as expected of a heavy weapon warrior who prioritizes strength, the power of a full force attack is truly absurd. Besides, the swordsman is one level above the giant snake, so he concludes that using this method to wear down both sides at the same time was not a bad idea, since now he only needs to finish the job. The mage tries to freeze the serpent and comments that, from the looks of it, she is safe for the moment, but she turns around in fear when she hears the MC telling her not to celebrate too early. With that, Su Ming unleashes several attacks on the mage and makes it clear that she forgot he was still there. The Mohawk guy gets worried when he realizes that the MC, in the end, ended up ambushing them, but as soon as he lets his guard down for a brief moment, the python takes advantage of the chance and catches the swordsman in its mouth. Su Ming comments that he thinks by now the Mohawk guy should have realized it. He, in turn, while trying not to be eaten, curses the MC. Su Ming emphasizes that it is horrible to be attacked from behind, Having said that, he equips his new sword and points out that launching a surprise attack is something extremely distressing, but he emphasizes that, thanks to the swordsman's help, the giant snake's HP is already down to 1/3. Besides, its scales were also broken by his heavy strike moments earlier. So, because of that, the snake's resistance to attacks dropped quite a lot, and he did not need to lift a single finger. The swordsman gets nervous when he hears this, but ends up being attacked from behind by the MC's sword control, while the MC, in turn, takes advantage of the same attack and lands a direct hit in the middle of the python's mouth. After the dust settles, Leah, still hidden, is very surprised since she is seeing the huge snake completely defeated in front of Su Ming. He looks at the system and thinks that, from the looks of it, the rewards are not bad at all. Leah starts crying and thinking that the MC really avenged her. At that moment, a guy appears at the top of a tree, commenting that this D-rank subjugation quest must have some pretty good rewards. Su Ming turns around, wanting to know who the person who just appeared is. The guy answers that, right now, the MC should not be worrying about who he is, but about himself. Having said that, he laughs and says that, without even realizing it, the MC has already fallen into his trap. Su Ming notices his hand trembling a lot, and also that he cannot move his body. Then, he wonders if he is under some paralyzing effect, but what he really wants to know is when he was hit, and, as the guy approaches, he reflects that he has already eliminated the assassins and was also not attacked by the giant snake. So, he concludes that it definitely is not the effect of the snake's venom. At that moment, the guy equips his weapon and comments that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it, and that he did not think he would run into such luck. Having said that, he emphasizes that he thought no one would take this D17 subjugation quest. Besides, he did not expect to run into them fighting among themselves there, and that it would even be a waste on his part if he did not take them as spoils of war. Su Ming wants to know if, in the end, the guy is not one of the assassins who were sent to eliminate him. The guy laughs and asks if the MC is joking because he does not think a newly awakened level 21 student like him is worth assassinating for a high reward. The MC thinks that he knew Zhang Tang would not be smart enough to realize that those assassins would not be able to handle him and send another one right after. Then, he activates his Eye of Perception, and, while observing the mysterious guy, he says that it will only be one cut, and that it will not hurt at all, since his critical slash skill will finish the MC off in an instant. Su Ming discovers that the guy's name is Ding Pan, that he is level 27, and that he is from the disguise class. His skills are Phantom Concealment, Breath Concealment Technique, Traceless Paralysis Transmission, and Critical Slash. Then he reflects that this Traceless Paralysis Transmission skill must be what is preventing him from moving. After that, he comments to the guy that it must have been the mist from moments earlier when he somehow made him fall into his paralysis skill. Ding Pan gets worried and asks how the MC discovered that. Su Ming thinks that he hit the mark perfectly. Then, he says that he also knows that the paralysis effect time of his skill is almost over. Ding Pan opens his system window and shouts, wanting to know how that is possible and if he made some kind of mistake. Because, as far as he knows, the MC's paralysis time should still last 1 minute and 2 seconds. Su Ming, upon hearing this, thinks that he never imagined there would be a skill capable of paralyzing someone for that long. As for Ding Pan, after checking his skill, he comments that it is correct and that there is exactly 1 minute left before the paralysis ends. Besides, his Traceless Paralysis Transmission is a slow-acting poison skill, and the poisoning process takes time, but the reward makes up for it. The MC smiles and thinks that, although he managed to trick this idiot into revealing the effect of his skill, he knows that a paralysis lasting 2 minutes is far too long, until Ding Pan realizes it and asks if the MC was trying to trick him. Then, he makes it clear that he had no idea how long his skill lasted. However, Su Ming remembers something and reflects that he still has a chance to survive. With that, he starts listing all the skills he discovered and says that he never imagined a level 27 big shot like Ding Pan would not have a single active direct damage skill, and that, because of that, it is actually pathetic. The guy is surprised and asks how the MC knows about his skills. He comments that Ding Pan must be very nervous right now because he knows that as soon as his paralysis wears off, he will not have the slightest chance. Meanwhile, Ding Pan thinks that all of this is just the MC's nonsense, because even if he does not have active skills, his stats are more than enough to deal with a newly awakened level 21 like him. Su Ming comments that then, in the end, they will have a fair fight once his paralysis ends. Ding Pan wants to know why he should listen to him. Su Ming comments that, from the looks of it, the shoe fits, and that he is even afraid of a newly awakened one. Ding Pan gets nervous and tells the MC to shut up. He, in turn, makes it clear that talking is easy because they will settle everything once his paralysis wears off. But Ding Pan, distracted by the MC's conversation, ends up being hit from behind by Leah's illusory colors claw strike. While she makes it clear that the MC avenged her village and that she will not let Ding Pan hurt him, the blonde guy lands a blow on her and immediately wants to know what kind of creature just appeared. Then, he wants to know how there can be a helper there, since all the awakened ones in that area should have been poisoned and paralyzed by his skill, until he realizes that the one who attacked him is a beast woman from the realm of illusions. Then, he charges at her, wanting to know how a useless level 3 beast dares to help an awakened one, and, as soon as he corners Leah, he makes it clear that she is asking to be eliminated. However, at that moment, the MC's paralysis ends, and he immediately controls his sword and says that the one who will be eliminated there will be Ding Pan. He looks back, frightened, and sees the MC with a very terrifying look. A few minutes later, after eliminating the awakened one, Su Ming says that the guy's strength was so pathetic, and he did not expect his spoils of war to be so abundant. Then, he asks Leah not to be afraid, because the other awakened one has already fainted and he will not hurt them, since he never eliminates women. Leah keeps watching the mage on the ground, until the MC comments that he has already finished looting all the backpacks. Then, he is going to take the opportunity to complete his second class change quest, which is nearby. Leah wants to know if she can go with him. After all, she no longer has a home, and since he helped her take revenge, she thinks he is a good person. Su Ming answers no. Leah is very disappointed, but he emphasizes that she saved his life. Having said that, he throws a disguise skill scroll to her, which contains the skill Blood Wave Impulse, which, when used, increases the critical hit rate after hitting the enemy and causes continuous bleeding. The wound will be difficult to stop, and the damage is extremely high. Su Ming makes it clear that Leah is very weak at the moment, and that taking her along will only slow him down. So, he wants her to train hard in the environment she already knows, and the skill scroll he gave her will help her. Then, they will meet again in the near future. And, because of that, he hopes that by then, she will already have become a formidable assassin of the realm of illusions. Leah, with eyes full of tears, looks at the skill scroll she received and comments that she understands. Then, she shouts that she will not disappoint him. Su Ming thinks that he will be waiting for the day they meet again. A few minutes later, the MC receives a system notification informing him that he consumed the 1,000-year purple vein. Lingzi dropped by the giant venomous python, the boss of the wild area. The 5 main attributes of strength, constitution, agility, spirit, and luck have been greatly enhanced. Then, the system notifies him that the MC has completed the 3rd class change quest. Now, he has been promoted to the 3rd class change level of the God of Slaughter, and all stats have increased by 10%. In addition, he obtained a reward item, the Awakened Ding Pan's Diary, and the item can be handed in at the nearest quest hall. Meanwhile, in the realm of illusions, at Southwest Point number 63, in the quest hall, a guy wants to know why his partner is simply leaving the group. He answers that teaming up with a noob like him almost cost him his life even in an M-rank subjugation quest. Su Ming arrives at the place and soon hears someone commenting that they should have chosen a higher difficulty subjugation quest from the beginning, because the difficulty of a K-rank subjugation quest is too low, and the rewards are pocket change and a complete waste of time. The MC thinks that, from the looks of it, many people have already finished the subjugation quest and returned, until the awakened ones are surprised to see Miss Mo-Mei there and comment that her team successfully completed an F-rank subjugation quest. She, on the phone, asks Bai Yi to remember to contact her before the next quest. However, Mo-Mei ends up disappointed when she sees that the guy hung up on her before she even finished speaking. And, Even after they successfully completed the subjugation quest, he still has the same cold attitude. Then, she becomes intrigued when she hears the Awakened Ones shouting and pointing ahead. The Awakened Ones say that someone completed a D-rank subjugation quest, and as soon as they approach the board, they become certain that someone completed a D-rank subjugation quest. The person in question is the MC, since he has just reported the completion of his quest. However, the surprises are not over yet, because the panel is showing that he obtained a superior diamond grade reward. Moe cannot believe what she is seeing, and while carefully observing the MC, she really wants to know who the hell he is and what he did. Su-ming is looking at Dingpan's traceless paralysis transmission skill, where, by constantly using environmental mediums such as rainwater, mist, sandstorms, and others, it corrodes and conducts energy that paralyzes the enemy. The conduction time is determined by the range of the environment, varying from half an hour to 2 hours. When an enemy is exposed to the paralyzing medium in the space for long enough, they will enter a state of paralysis for almost 2 minutes, unable to move. Su-ming reflects that, although it requires an extremely long preparation time, a paralysis effect that lasts 2 minutes is truly insane. Besides, it is no wonder that guy's attack skills are so weak, but even so, he managed to successfully eliminate so many challengers, since he is looking at the list in his diary. And, as a result, this also made Dingpan a C-rank bounty hunter, until he discovers that, in fact, the guy is a diamond grade hunter, and since he eliminated him, he received a diamond grade quest reward, which is higher than the platinum grade reward from the D-rank subjugation quest. However, he knows that the most troublesome part is that this attracted a crowd, so he knows that this is exactly what he hates the most, and is feeling completely uncomfortable. Moe hears some of the Awakened Ones accusing the MC of cheating and even using some kind of cheat. Others comment that the Heavenly Tower Hunters Association was created by the authorities of the Dragon Country and that their supervision is extremely strict and even supreme rules are involved. So, there would be no way for the MC to do anything to cheat. Su-ming asks everyone to listen carefully and makes it clear that he did not use any cheat, but the Awakened Ones want him to tell them how he managed to get a diamond evaluation. The MC gets worried and thinks that if he says he was lucky enough to run into a C-rank bounty hunter and eliminated him to get the diamond reward, the Awakened Ones would not believe him either. Then he says that he only exploited a loophole, since he has in mind that he will have to use the experience from his past life to try to fool everyone. With that, Su-ming says that the method is very simple, in which they only need to take a subjugation quest at the maximum difficulty limit of their current level and select the solo or subjugation option. The Awakened Ones immediately want to know what the hell maximum difficulty means and what he means by solo subjugation. The MC asks everyone to let him finish speaking. Then, he emphasizes that a solo subjugation quest is definitely very difficult, but the premise is to take a high-level subjugation quest, since, in high-level quests, they will definitely find much higher-level challengers in a team doing the quest. Then, they only need to blend in with them and follow the main group to eliminate the subjugation target. That way, they will be carried and get the score from the solo subjugation quest they accepted. But the only pity is that the reward settlement will be proportional to their contribution. However, the evaluation score can be inflated, just like he did. The Awakened Ones want to know if this really works, and how many people the MC leached from in the subjugation quest. He raises his finger and says it was 100 people, which leaves the Awakened Ones very surprised. But they soon start laughing a lot at the MC and comment that, in the end, he is just a coward who was carried by a team of 100 people. Besides, they think his reward probably was not much different from getting nothing at all. Su-ming leaves, saying that by using the same method, going solo to be carried in high-level players' bounty quests, and slowly accumulating points, it will be possible to get a diamond evaluation. The Awakened Ones keep laughing and commenting that they thought the MC was super incredible. He, in turn, thinks that as long as they are all happy, everything will be fine, since he does not want them to cause a commotion or confusion. But before the MC leaves, the Awakened Ones ask him to tell them which team of experts he latched onto, because they want to be carried by them too. Su-ming says it was the expert they were discussing at the beginning, the awakened Shen Bai Yi. Moe is very surprised to hear that name. Then, she thinks the MC is lying, so before he leaves, she asks him to wait. Su-ming wants to know what happened, since he already explained the method. She goes up to him and says that he is lying. Then, she wants to know if he really completed the D-rank subjugation quest and ended up receiving the diamond evaluation reward. Su-ming answers that he is not lying and asks her to stop bothering him. Mo-mei takes out her phone and asks him to tell the truth because she is willing to give him 100,000 advent coins in exchange for the information. Su-ming looks at the amount on her phone, but turns around and says that he needs to leave. Having said that, he emphasizes that the two of them do not know each other and that he will not simply accept her 100,000 advent coins for no reason. She shouts, introducing herself, and then asks if he can at least tell her his name. Su-ming leaves without saying anything. Mo-mei thinks that she never imagined there would be an expert willing to hide his strength the way the MC just did, because his personality is even a little similar to Baiyi's, and that the awakened students of that year are really very interesting. After that, already in the real world, the MC arrives at his house and thinks that eliminating some of Zhang Tang's assassins may have already attracted attention, so he needs to pay attention to his safety lately, since most of the awakened students in his class have already moved out of the campus dormitories, and that the most dangerous place may be the safest place. If he continues living there, he thinks Zhang Tang probably will not suspect anything until he notices a message from Jiao, and upon opening it, he sees that her group successfully formed a team and completed a G-rank subjugation quest, and that, in fact, the messages in their group chat are very lively. Then, he reflects that he is the only one in the group who did not truly participate, and that this cold personality of his has not changed much from his past life until now. But he knows that this is why he often ends up not matching the enthusiasm Ji Yao has for him. At that moment, the MC receives a message from Yun Chung. He gets worried, wondering if something could have happened, until he is very surprised, since, in the message, Yun Chung is saying that because he saved her life in the dungeon, her father said that he insists on giving him a gift, so she hopes he will not refuse it no matter what. With that, Su-ming receives the golden sword, a weapon of extremely high value, but whose practical usefulness is average. The MC gets out of bed right away and is completely impressed when he sees that it is literally a golden sword. With that, he reflects on the subjugation quest, plus the advent coin reward from the C-rank quest, and on giving the money from selling the golden sword he just received to Nahura as sponsorship. Then, he thinks he should still have more than 200,000 advent coins left over, which is more than enough. Besides, it is just as expected from a gift from a rich family, since they are all like this, flashy, but not very practical. However, the MC is intrigued by the name Jiang Yongli. Then, he realizes that he remembers that name, since, in his past life, the news of his death caused a lot of discussion. He does not remember the cause of death, but if his memory is not failing him, it was a few months after he awakened. Besides, Yun Qing from his past life must have suffered a lot at that time. But for someone like him, who has been an orphan since childhood, this kind of feeling is really very difficult to understand and empathize with. Meanwhile, at the Department of Affairs of the Dragon Country, someone knocks on the door, and some people inside ask the other person to come in. It is the deputy mayor of Xuanjing City, wanting to know what the director wants. He informs her that the assessment results of the novice dungeon for all the newly awakened students in the country have come out. So, he wants to know if she is responsible for the assessment in Xuanjing City. She answers yes, but asks him to be clearer. The director slams his fist hard on the table and says that a situation happened with 2 students, and because of that, he needs to confirm it very carefully with her. Ranling becomes worried and asks whether these students committed some crime. The director says that one of the students is named Li Chenguang and the other is named Su Ming. Having said that, he emphasizes that between these two, one of them will have his provincial ranking reward canceled. Then, he says that, for the other one, in the city he represents, the educational resources for the following year will be tripled based on the current rules. Ranling wants to know whether Su Ming committed some serious mistake somewhere. The director gets up from his chair without saying anything, which makes the deputy mayor even more worried, saying that, at first, the MC's class was sword controller, and that she also did not have much faith in him at the beginning. but she did not expect him to be able to eliminate the hidden boss of the novice dungeon so quickly and take first place. So, she thinks this is something the province had not seen in many years. Because of that, she made an exception and gave a few more spots to the Heavenly Tower Council. Besides, as deputy mayor, she also needs to boost the distribution of resources in her city. After all, Xuanjing ranks last every year, but she emphasizes that she was not abusing her power because she would never have imagined that the MC would commit a future mistake capable of bothering even the director. This is Wen Tianlei, director of the Special Abilities Security Agency, who shouts at the deputy mayor, saying that she guessed everything wrong. Ranling wants to know if the one whose reward qualification was cancelled was the blade maniac Li Chenguang and why. The director says that this is where her negligence comes in, because, as the deputy mayor of Xuanjing City, she did not even know that Li Chenguang invaded the novice dungeon of Xuanjing Academy that year, and many students were eliminated by that guy. And, even though the novice dungeon test can resurrect the challengers at the end, Li Chenguang is only a young man, but he already eliminates people as if they were flies, massacring his compatriots as if they were wild beasts. And this kind of behavior from an awakened one is absolutely despicable. The deputy mayor agrees with him, but becomes intrigued by one thing and asks how he found out. Tianlei says it is because he is friends with the director of Xuanjing Academy, and he greatly admires the awakened student, Su Ming. So, because of his friendship with the director, he always wanted to help Xuanjing City, which ranks at the bottom every year. But, due to his position, he could not show favoritism, so he was left with his hands tied. But after learning about this incident, he had the perfect opportunity, and, as he just said, the educational resources of Xuanjing City will be tripled the following year. The deputy mayor is surprised and thanks the director, but he tells her not to thank him, because if she has to thank someone, she should be thankful that they have such an exceptional awakened student as Su Ming that year. At that moment, a guy calls the director and informs him that they have an emergency situation. As soon as Tianlei looks at his phone, he is surprised and says that a large group of high-level awakened ones from Tianqi country secretly infiltrated their borders. After that, on the next day, the awakened ones are excited to learn that the results have come out for the overall performance ranking of the novice dungeon for all newly awakened students in the province that year, and the one in first place is Xuanjing Academy. But they soon become intrigued when they see that the highest ranked person is the sword controller. Meanwhile, at the MC's house, his phone is ringing a lot, and after falling out of bed to answer the phone, he wants to know why there are so many message notifications all of a sudden. Then, he is surprised, because all the messages are guild recruitment invitations. As he looks at some of them, he wonders what is going on, because even though he got a diamond grade evaluation, he thinks there should not be so many people wanting to invite him to guilds, since the guild system in the awakened world is basically the place where they gather to increase their strength and support each other. And, for a novice who has just awakened, joining a guild right at the beginning is truly a great choice, since, in the end, not everyone has the chance to reach the upper levels of the Heavenly Tower Council. Then, if the person joins a strong guild, the veterans will provide mentorship, tips, and the person will gain many rewards. Besides, some guilds even distribute skill scrolls, equipment, and other items for free. So, he knows this drastically reduces the chances of newly awakened ones being eliminated at the beginning of their journeys. But he knows it is a pity that this ideal situation only existed in the beginning, when order in the awakened world was being established. And, with the ever-increasing number of awakened ones, predatory competition also began to appear in order to maintain the strength and status of their respective guilds. But guilds nowadays no longer want to recruit ordinary challengers. So, he concludes that this must be exactly why he became the target of so many guild invitations. Su Ming is incredulous when he sees the number of invitations he is still receiving, and thinks that, the way things are at the moment, if he keeps receiving this many invitation messages every day, it will be very annoying. Therefore, the MC starts looking through the guild invitations, and, when he stops on one, he thinks that he only needs to do exactly the opposite. The guild in question is Black Silence, which is formed by only a few members, has no recruitment requirements, no administration, no complicated promotion processes, and allows anyone at level 10 or above to join. Besides, it has no boosting and no benefits. The only rule of the guild is that the person is responsible for their own life. Su Ming thinks this is very good and joins the Black Silence Guild. A few minutes later, some awakened ones notice that the MC, who ranked first in the province, has already joined a guild. Others want to know what kind of guild was lucky enough to recruit a talent like him. Then they are very surprised and immediately want to know why the MC would choose to join such a trash guild. While the awakened ones keep trying to understand, Su Ming hears them talking and thinks that the provincial results of that novice dungeon have already been announced. So, he knows it is no wonder there were so many invitation messages early in the morning. But, fortunately, he obtained an interchangeable title in the Tower of 100 Layers earlier, since he managed to modify the information on his guild search profile. Now, he is using God of Slaughter as his search alias. Then, he reflects that, with a guild and this title replacing his name, he will no longer be chased by people. But, as for the Black Silence Guild emblem, the design looks very good, and a guild with no rules and no activities like this is the most suitable for someone like him, who likes to act like a lone wolf. Besides, there is another benefit to joining a guild, since it is precisely being able to accept some missions that can only be accepted through the guild system. And, as soon as he looks at some of them, he notices that the mission with the highest difficulty is only rank E, but he knows it is no wonder. After all, it is only a guild with low activity. However, he decides to click to go to the next page and see if he can find a few more missions. Then, he is very surprised since he is seeing an S-rank mission. Suddenly, a rift opens above the MC and asks if he is surprised. Su Ming becomes worried about the voice he is hearing. Meanwhile, somewhere else, some people are scared, wanting to know what is happening and whether a fight is going on. Su Ming is forced to dodge an attack from a mysterious guy. He tries to block the attack, but the person is using a chain and corners the MC. Then Su Ming is surprised to see something heading in his direction. The mysterious person approaches the rift and says that what he threw to the MC is his guild mission card. Having said that, he comments that they will meet again soon. After the person leaves, the MC looks at the card with intrigue. Meanwhile, on the other side of the rift, another person wants to know how it went. She answers that everything went well. Then another one comments that it seems Miss Mo Mei did not recommend the MC blindly, since specifically guiding him to join their guild was the right move. The person who handed the card to Su Ming emphasizes that his abilities, even though he is a novice, are already very good for his current level. Then, she says it was not a waste of effort to hack the system and attract the MC to them. The other one comments that either way, his addition is also good preparation for the future combat tournament. Therefore, he makes it clear that he hopes they have not misjudged the MC, since he needs to raise his level as quickly as possible. Back where the MC is, he is looking at his guild card and concludes that it is not that simple. Then, he activates his Eye of Perception and reflects that even though he casually chose a casual lower-level guild, he thinks there is something strange, and, as he carefully observes each guild invitation, he tries to look for something wrong, until he reaches the Black Silence Guild invitation and sees a trace of an unidentified ability from the recognized challenger. Therefore, Su Ming concludes that someone used the power of an awakened one to guide him into joining the guild he joined. Then, the MC wonders whether these people are trying to kidnap him. Su Ming thinks about leaving the guild, but soon remembers how the mysterious person appeared out of nowhere and the way she fought. Then, he smiles and cancels his departure from the guild. At that moment, the people around comment that they called the police and report that there was a fight there a few minutes ago, since casual fights in the real world are not allowed. However, it seems the attackers have already fled. While running through the city, Su Ming thinks that he will stay in this guild because he wants to see what these people are planning. And, as soon as he uses his guild mission card, he sees several purchasable guild mission challenges, until he decides to select the D-rank dungeon, the Corpse Sea Ice Nest. But he is warned that, since this dungeon has not been purchased and unlocked by the Black Silence Guild, the MC does not have general access permission, so it asks whether he wants to buy it. Su Ming does not think twice and buys the mission. With that, he is informed about the Corpse Sea Ice Nest, which is a terrifying ice valley. The monsters there do not die and need to be eliminated repeatedly. Inside the nest, at the bottom of the valley, the most terrifying challenge is hidden. The MC wastes no time and goes straight to the dungeon. He sees that the place is covered in ice and snow, and as soon as he reaches the ground, he feels a tremendous cold. His nose soon starts running, and then the MC is taken over by several sneezes. Su-ming starts looking for something in his inventory, since he remembers that something dropped when he was eliminating monsters for his second class change mission. Then, he finds a crystal hot water bag, which can help him maintain his body temperature in extremely cold environments. Su-ming takes the item and thinks it is a good thing he got it, since it is a true lifesaver for this occasion. At that moment, a huge skeletal hand bursts out of the ground with full force. The MC hears the noise and quickly needs to move to avoid being hit. The creature that just appeared is a level 22 ice undead. Su-ming grabs his sword and thinks that he was almost eliminated by surprise by the creature. Then he activates the Eye of Perception and sees the characteristics of the ice undead, in which the creature has an immortal body talent, and its skills are corpse rending, strike, and undead nerves. Su-ming takes a closer look at the immortal body talent and discovers that, after death, the corpse's bones will gradually reconstruct themselves and return to life. After that, the MC charges forward and, when delivering the first attack, thinks that he witnessed this creature's talent in his past life. So, he knows that the destroyed parts can recover quickly, but only as long as it is before the monster has fully recovered. Therefore, he delivers a powerful attack to the ice undead's back and shouts, saying that he has a way to completely annihilate it. Having said that, he applies his Sword Tomb Sorrow technique and lands a direct hit on the creature. Su-ming comments that, this way, the ice undead's immortal body talent will not be able to activate. However, he becomes intrigued by something he is seeing in the system, since a message from his guild has just arrived. The message was sent by an anonymous person, wanting to know if the MC is sure he wants to challenge a D-rank dungeon alone. Su-ming does not like that kind of question and replies by message, telling the anonymous person to mind their own business. The anonymous person replies that it is fine, and that, if the MC wants to throw his life away, no one will stop him. But, as someone from the same guild, the warning is to be careful with challengers from other guilds who also chose the same dungeon, who are much more terrifying than the monsters. Su-ming laughs and thinks, as if he needed an anonymous person like her to remind him. Then he wonders whether the anonymous person really thinks he is a novice, because in the rules of guild mission dungeons, the same dungeon is a public area for challenges from several guilds. Therefore, open conflicts and hidden fights frequently occur between guilds in the same dungeon. Situations that end up leading to casual confrontations are everywhere. Thus, to reduce encounters with rival guilds for their own members, they usually find out which other guilds are challenging the same dungeon at the same time when selecting a dungeon, in which basically everyone communicates. If they encounter a rival guild, they can also increase the number of people teaming up from their own guild to keep up appearances and mitigate hostility. However, Su-ming has in mind that for him, at the moment, doing a solo challenge, it makes sense that they would remind him, since this shows that the members of the guild he is in still have a bit of a human touch. Therefore, the MC continues his walk, but he soon hears the irritating spawning sound again. Then Su-ming looks around and realizes that this time, several appeared at the same time. So, he equips his sword and, as he gets ready, asks them all to attack him already, since he will use them to level up. A few hours later, a guy is telling another not to be afraid, since joining the lawless guild is the smartest choice he could make, and that on that day, a team of level 30 or higher players will take him to complete the D-rank dungeon, and there definitely will not be any risks. The novice thanks the squad leader for being willing to guide a novice. However, they all end up surprised, since they are seeing several bodies of ice undead piled on top of each other. Besides, they think that, judging by the number of monster corpses in the pile, the team that did this must be huge. Meanwhile, Su-ming is reflecting on the guild's D-rank dungeon, because, as the name suggests, it is a dungeon environment in the ice fields, completely permeated by undead creatures. And the dungeon in question still operates in the same mode as the novice dungeon, in which it offers two directional choices, where the first, of course, is to defeat the final boss or the hidden boss of the Supreme Challenge objective. However, for most challengers, they often choose the second method, since, in order to gain a relatively higher contribution value during the dungeon challenge, after leaving the dungeon, the person can receive more experience and corresponding rewards. So, he knows that he fits precisely into the latter category, because in order to gain more level up experience, he chose the guild mission for this dungeon. Besides, he knows that a guild dungeon is inherently an open area. Therefore, as long as a person chooses to challenge the same dungeon mission, they will share the same dungeon space. Therefore, there are players of various levels and teams from several guilds inside the dungeon, and this also results in the emergence of a unique mechanism within the guild dungeon area, which is different from the outside world, the so-called elastic level mechanism, where challengers of a certain level will trigger the appearance of monsters whose level difference does not exceed 3 levels, and, in the case of a multiplayer team, the monsters will appear based on the average level of the highest level challengers in the squad. And, because of this mechanism, the monsters that appeared when he encountered them are in the level 20 to 22 range. The elastic mechanism ensures fair competition between challengers of different levels from several guilds in this public area. At that moment, while the MC walks through the place, something catches his attention, since he is seeing several awakened ones below where he is. A guy comments that it should already be enough, because, having eliminated each monster twice, the creature's immortal body attribute will no longer be effective. And, since they have this talent, clearing this dungeon is truly exhausting. Then, he wants to know how things are, because according to the clues from that treasure map icon, the location of the puzzle should be very close. So, he wants his partners to hurry and confirm whether people from other guilds have also arrived there, because it will turn into a fight to the death. A guy says that the deciphered coordinates should be a short distance ahead. Su-ming thinks that these guys he is seeing have probably already grinded the skeleton's treasure map, since he has in mind that he also got it while farming the monsters. And from the looks of it, it seems that the item's drop rate is not low at all. Then, he activates the Eye of Perception and reflects that directly facing a team composed of members above level 30 is impossible. But, since they have already deciphered the treasure's location, there is no harm in following them and looking for an opportunity. A few minutes later, the awakened ones end up finding the place where the treasure chest is. However, they become intrigued, wanting to know how they are going to open it. Then something begins to react in the treasure, and they receive a warning informing them that they will unravel the secret of the ice fields. But they need to choose between the illuminated place or the secret place. Everyone becomes confused, trying to understand what this means. Then their leader asks the others to wait, because he will think of something. Meanwhile, the MC opens the system and sees information about the skeleton's treasure map, which asks to call upon the light, and the secrets of the ice fields will be hidden in the resting place. Su-ming is surprised to understand, and thinks that this puzzle is very simple. So, the obvious choice would be for them to choose the light. However, the squad leader shouts, saying that they will choose the secret place. And, as soon as he makes that choice, the place begins to shake and collapse. Then the awakened ones want to know what is happening to the sky and why the snow has also turned black. After that, the ice undead begin to appear, but this time, they have a completely different aura. The squad leader becomes frightened and shouts, saying that the mechanism did not close, and wonders whether he chose the wrong option, and whether the secret place is not where the treasure is hidden. One of the guild members comments that the map's instructions said to call upon the light, and the secrets of the ice fields would be hidden in the resting place. So, he thinks the squad leader should have chosen to call upon the light, since choosing the secret place means going to the resting place. The leader becomes nervous, thinking all of this is a lie, but wants to know why he did not warn him earlier. The guy replies that it is because the squad leader chose too quickly. Then another member comments that it is not the time for discussion, because there is a noise coming from the direction they came from. The squad leader becomes frightened and comments that, in that direction, it is where the monsters were just annihilated by them. And he soon becomes very scared, wanting to know what the hell he is seeing ahead. The creature, in turn, does not stay still and launches an attack. While one of the guild members is hit, the squad leader tries to protect himself and comments that, from the looks of it, melee weapons will not be able to handle this bizarre creature. The guy who was attacked tries to ask for help but cannot and is eliminated. Therefore, the squad leader tells the other members that if they are hit by the creature, they will be frozen instantly. However, as soon as he finishes saying that, he becomes completely terrified because the creature is right behind them.